Continuing last year's tradition, I thought I'd once again wrap up all my best videos into a best of 2025 Super Cup for you to enjoy. 2025 was a big one for the channel as we finally passed 100,000 subscribers, and with Subnautica 2 set to come out in 2026, I imagine the best is yet to come. Let me know down below which of my 2025 videos was your favourite, and I'll speak to you again soon. Escape rooms can be a great form of fun, but would you still think that if you were trapped in one at the bottom of the ocean? My friend Salvner decided that question really needed to be answered, and so the Subnautica escape room was born. Can I escape? It's time to find out. So it looks like we're in the void. We're 1,882 meters down. I think there's ghost leviathans out there probably. In fact, maybe you're safer staying inside the room. We've got a locker. We've also got a coffee machine. Never trust the coffee machines. I'm telling you, I've seen this one before. It is possible to fail. To succeed, you must leave in the rocket. Hint room. Enter if stuck. Are they going to start spawning ghost leviathans? Oh, whoa. Okay, there's a whole load of stuff. Oh my god, I'm drowning very quickly. Could I jump up here? I'm a little bit too thick for this, I think. We can't get in there, at least not right now. So we'll head into here. Unpowered fabricator. How do we power this? It sounds like something is leaking oxygen around here. So when he says it's possible to fail, does that mean it's possible to get stuck? God, I'd love to have some fins right now. You really can't stay here very long before you have to head back. Where's a bladder fish when you need it? Anywhere around here? Okay, if I go in here, can I breathe? I can. Right, okay, so this is kind of half fixed. Can I grab anything around the side of it? Doesn't look like it. What is up here? Can we breathe in here? No. Okay, so maybe we can power this somehow and it can do a little scan for us. What is over here? A chair? Another chair? The numbers, Mason. What do they mean? Oh, that was a pro gamer move. Was that luck? Was that skill? I think it was luck, but we're going to say it was skill. A camera drone. Okay, up we go. I can't remember how to use this. Can I put you in here? No. I tried, okay. Going to die. Going to die. Uh-oh, 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 uh-oh. Whew. Okay, panic over. Okay, there's another base over here. Let's head this way. This is powered. There is a bladder fish. You think you're safe from me in there? I'll show you. Maybe I could breathe them, and then I won't be limited by oxygen anymore, because I'll have infinite bladder fish. Oh god, I'm having flashbacks. A bioreactor. Oh, a stalker. We've got a reactor rod. Little table, little aquarium. Not enough space to sit. We have to pick up the bag. Can I do like a crouch jump? Can I even crouch in this game? My knees don't work. There's a bin there as well. Bag disposal. Come on, Riley. Just make your arms grow by another like 2 foot. We'll leave that for now because I'm big dum-dum. Let's put the stalker in the bioreactor. Oh, buddy. It's not an Aletho video until we bioreactor something. There's a locker here. I didn't even notice that. Spiked horngrass seed. Do I bioreactor the stalker? Is that a good idea? Have I been in that room? I do not recognize this. Where are we going? I'm lost. Oh, we're on the other side now. That's the bioreactor. Another alien containment. We get the bladder fish from here. So we come out this side. Silicon rubber. Oh, there's another entrance. It's like the perfect puzzle box. You go around and there's just another door, and there's another door, and there's another hidden door somewhere else. It's great. Here we go. Baggage disposal. Was I supposed to be able to pick up... Aha! Get rid of the bag. Now we can get through there. We did something. There we go. Gonna be honest, this map's making me feel like an idiot. Aletho is on the case. Do you know how many escape rooms I've done? Notice I said I've done. I didn't say I had escaped from. Alright, one bag disposed of. We can now get through here. Where does it lead? Into the blood kelp. We need blood kelp vines? What do I do with this? There's always more questions. Am I missing something? Nothing on the ceiling? It's kind of like being in the back rooms. Everything just looks the same. I refuse to go in the hint room. I will not do it. Maybe I could swim for the rocket. I don't feel like I'm going to make that swim though. Or if I do make that swim, I don't feel like I'm going to get back. Look, oh, it's got no roof. That's kind of interesting. Clearly I haven't watched enough Soundner videos because I don't know my Subnautica tips and tricks. I swear I just saw a little hatch on the end of that. Oh god, am I going to make it? Oh no, hurry. Oh god. Quick, 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 quick. Oh yes. Oh, there's no air in here. I've still got my stuff. See, I thought dying meant it was game over, but apparently not. Oh, that means I could try swimming over there. We just do like kamikaze runs. Okay, anything over here? Can we breathe in here if we get in here? All right, okay. Progress. Oh, we can throw the switch. That's it. We're getting ready to go. Let's get out of here. It doesn't matter that there's no roof. It's all fine. Oh, but this one has something in it. Glass. I wonder if it's the platforms that are making it stay down. Oh, whoa. This is classed as land? Is this an exploit? I don't know. Maybe we just do it? YOLO. Okay, we have power. What does having power achieve? I don't know. Is there now power to any of this stuff? It is powered. Okay. An air bladder? We're going to need that. I don't know how the air bladder works, Salvner. Do you think I've ever used this thing? Wait, it sends you up, doesn't it? Oh, uh-oh, 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 uh-oh. Stop! Oh, no. Oh, no. No. I've been air bladdered myself to death. Maybe if I like air bladder myself right next to something, I like pass through it. You know, this would have probably been a really useful item if I'd ever built this. I can't really use this outside, because if I use this outside, I just die. Salvner has blown my tiny mind. I assume there's nothing up there. Do I try another kamikaze mission? Let's just have a look. Oh, there is something up here. Here we go. I figured it out. There was no exploit. I just needed to use it as it was intended to be used. I didn't think you'd go up, but it makes sense. You will never need to use the air bladder to go up. But seeing as you're here, try drowning. I was literally just saying, like, oh yeah, look, I was meant to go up with it. And now here he is saying, don't do it. Hey, there's another one over there. Maybe I could try and swim to that. Can I make that in 45 seconds? I don't think so. Yeah, I'm nowhere near. Feels like I found an Easter egg. He knew somebody would do it. And of course it had to be me. Oh my god, man. It literally says at the bottom, replenish oxygen. So I can literally just do this and get more air. Maybe I need it to get to that room further out. I'm trying to wait as long as I can. I'm still kind of in trouble. Oh wait, I got a bit more oxygen. Where did that come from? Oh wait, if I can get in there. Oh, I see a hatch. Oh wait, keep clicking even though we can't see. Oh, coming in clutch. Am I dead? Did I survive? I don't know. So how did I gain more air last time? Did going in here give me more air? So the air bladder fills up there even if I don't actually have oxygen? Can I just keep pressing that button and refilling over and over again? I'm learning. Ever so slowly, I'm learning. It's like playing Spore, and when your creature evolves to the next level and its brain like slowly gets bigger and bigger and then it like bursts out the box. That's currently what's happening to my brain right now. So if I come in here, I can then fill up again. Oh, I need to come out. So I can do that and then fill up again and then come out again. Oh, this is a true exploit. Look at that. Swim for that reactor. Come on, let's do this. This is actually so cool. I didn't even know that this was a thing. Reactor rod in. Oh, we can breathe. I've got no idea what I do with these. That looks like it might have powered the one on the way back. Maybe this has now powered that scanner room that we need to power. Oh, yes, it's powered. Okay, cool. So I can only search for lithium or metal salvage. So if I drop this camera, here we go. Okay, where can we go with this? I hope nothing's going to eat my camera. To be honest, even if there was a way in here, there's no way I'm going to swim down here and be able to make it. The static is starting to take over. I might be getting too far away. There's a Cyclops up here. Wow, okay. I wasn't expecting that. This is all completely wrecked. I didn't see anything up there I could do with this camera. Is this another exploit I've got to learn, Salvner? Damn you and your dastardly brain, coming up with all these challenges that I have to figure out. Oh, maybe I could go through here. Does the camera fit through this gap? Can I pass through like the sides? Oh wait, I should be searching for like scrap metal. Does that mean there's something down there, or is that where the camera is? So if we try the camera now, does it tell us that? So that probably would have been a good idea to do first, but that didn't even occur to me. Whoa, we ended up under the map? It's metal salvage. Can I pick this up at all? Could I swim down here? Is that falling? Does that mean the map is broken now? Because, it's going a very long way. Am I stuck down here now? I don't know how I got under here in the first place, to be honest with you. There is a single piece of lithium. Could I make it down to that? That's still very, very deep. Oh, wait, I could just do this. Oh, I think I get it now. I'm supposed to swim through the floor, die, grab them, and then come back. Ah, every time I figure out something new, I'm like, yes, I'm doing this. And then I'm back to like, what do I do now? I feel like I should try and get the metal salvage while I still can. If I still can, because that was sinking. Maybe I could push it up. Stop sinking. Oh, God, I'm pushing it even further down now. It's so far away. I don't even know if I can make it. Down we go. Any metal? This doesn't seem to be working very well. Where am I? Wait, what? How did I end up here? Was I supposed to be up here? Did I just glitch this? I have absolutely no idea. Maybe this was the plan. Maybe I was never supposed to find the metal. So we've got an advanced wiring kit now. I've just got to say, Salvner, if that was intentional, that was very good map design, because I had no idea about that. It's very dark in here. No vehicle docked. This vehicle is very damaged. I think I'm about to die, unless I can air bladder myself, just about. This is all empty. Is there anything in the engine? Uh-oh. Wait. Put that back in. Put that back in. Put that back in. Oh, no, I think I've just broke the map. Uh-oh. I don't think I was supposed to remove that. Maybe I was. I might need it, actually. I'm going to pull it out again. I am going to take that. Oh, do I need this? I don't know. Was I supposed to take that out? Ooh. It's gone. I don't have time to look at the explosion because I'm dying. I mean, was I supposed to do that? I mean, I've done it now. Ah, look at all the scrap metal, though. I'm going to take it all. Computer chip. There's loads of good stuff from breaking this thing. The ship was really damaged. So I'm going to assume I was supposed to do that. I mean, the whole chair's left there, probably to watch the explosion. I don't know why I didn't think that taking that out would be a bad idea. Cyclops shield generator. I feel like having blown that up, I can't now do anything else. Unless that's in the wreckage somewhere. What do you need for enamel glass? Oh, you need the stalker tooth, don't you? Oh, I failed when I had bioreacted that stalker. I decided to wrap it up there as I knew I wasn't going to escape. But maybe you can. I've left a link down below to the map so you can try it for yourself. And be sure to go and send Salvner some love for his awesome creation. A lot of time and effort has gone into making it, and I know he'd appreciate you checking it out. Now I suppose I might as well get comfy, as I think I'm going to be stuck down here for a while. Subnautica is a game where you explore a vast underwater world teeming with life, both friend and foe alike. A game created despite numerous challenges at the offices of developer Unknown Worlds Entertainment, with the studio almost going bankrupt on multiple occasions. But despite its tricky development process, the game was a massive commercial success, with the latest sales figures available from 2020 showing Subnautica had passed 5.2 million copies sold. With numbers like that, a sequel seemed like a no-brainer, but Subnautica Below Zero, much like its predecessor, would not have an easy development, with the game suffering from design and story changes, a pandemic, and a mixed fan reception. This is the story of the development of Subnautica Below Zero, so sit back and relax as we melt through the icy surface to unveil what exactly was going on at Unknown Worlds Entertainment during the game's development. Below Zero was initially planned as a DLC to the original Subnautica, so it comes as no surprise that the game's life would start just as Subnautica was reaching the end of its development. Subnautica would officially release out of early access on Steam on January 23rd, 2018, but the very day before this release, game developer Charlie Cleveland had sat down for an interview with Rock Paper Shotgun to discuss the game's future post 1.0 launch. The concept of an ice biome had been something that had been discussed at Unknown Worlds for some time, but hadn't yet made it into Subnautica. Charlie would say at this interview that while plans were not yet concrete, they were about 80 to 90% sure they were going to make a paid expansion for the game, and that current plans were based on an ice world. Brainstorming for the DLC would begin about a month after Subnautica was fully released, and on February 13th, 2018, we would get our first look at what would eventually become Below Zero through footage uploaded to YouTube. The appropriately named Pingu video was uploaded by one of Unknown Worlds developers under the channel name Sulek, and shows what can only be described as very early concepts for the icy world of Below Zero, along with a number of penguins. They are not quite the finished game's penguins, but you can see the inspiration. On the same day that Pingu was released, the legendary video was followed by the critically acclaimed Pingu 2, along with two other videos showing early concepts for the glow whale and the rock puncher. But after dropping a few bombs, our hero then went dark. Months passed with no new information. Were these actual concepts or just a bit of fun? In July of 2018, we would get a few more teasers, as Alex Reese, a concept artist working on Below Zero, would post a number of art pieces on his DeviantArt page. Some of these you might recognise, but others would remain only as concept art. After all this teasing, on the 30th of August, the suspense was finally ended, and Subnautica Below Zero was officially announced to the world. In the months between the first sneak previews and the announcement, behind the scenes attitudes had shifted at Unknown Worlds. The Below Zero DLC was now set to be a standalone experience that would take place after the events of the original Subnautica, with the game being developed in a similar fashion to the original, through early access and community feedback shaping the experience. This shift from DLC to standalone title was a purely business decision, as evidence the company had gathered showed that standalone games sell better than downloadable content. But this change in format didn't affect any plans the company had in relation to the game's story or scale, which remained unchanged. Key features suggested at this early stage of development were a focus on temperature management and a voiced protagonist, which was a large contrast to the original Subnautica's quiet exploratory form of storytelling. After the game's initial announcement, again there was quiet, but then our hero would once again emerge from the darkness. Starting on the 6th of September, Sulek would upload more in-progress footage to YouTube. These videos would show a number of work in progress and possible features, experimenting with concepts that could have one day made it into the game. These would range from tiny craftable phase gates to deployable drills and more basic features, such as base colouring and renaming. If you look in the background, you can also see some of the work in progress terrain and buildings that would eventually become Outpost Zero. My favourite of these videos are the ones that show the work in progress sea truck, which didn't have its final model and looked a lot more blocky than the final version we would see. Come on modders, restore the sea truck to its former glory. We must return to Cube. Around this time, Alex would post another collection of concept art to his DeviantArt page, showing prototypes for the Arctic Peeper, the Mighty Chelicera, and others. For the next few months, there wasn't much in the way of new information, but then on the 25th of January 2019, we had our first flash of real news. Unknown Worlds announced that there will be a special Subnautica livestream event in just 5 days' time, showing the game's trailer and launching the game into early access on the Steam, Epic, and Discord stores. But amongst the rejoicement from fans, there was bad bad news for console players, as the game's early access wouldn't be coming to PlayStation or Xbox for the foreseeable future. On the 30th of January 2019, the first early access build of Below Zero would be released, alongside the early access trailer. This trailer showed a number of the final designs for creatures we would see in the full game, with the debut of the glow whale, penguins and the brute shark, as well as the ice worm. We would also catch our first glimpse of a new vehicle, the Snow Fox, which seemed to have replaced this hovercraft from the game's concept art. But while we had seen the ice worm and the Snow Fox, neither of these were in the playable version of the game at this point. Looking back at this version of the game today, it was surprisingly complete. Obviously there was still a lot that needed to be done and it was rough around the edges, but many of these environments aren't too different to what we would see in the final build. The twisty bridges were in, Delta Island was in place, and Outpost Zero was surprisingly better maintained than it is today. Lots of creatures were around too, with the penguins, glow whales and brute sharks all present and accounted for, along with some placeholders taken from the original Subnautica that would later be replaced. This first version of the game contained all the music from the original Subnautica, but didn't include any new or exclusive Below Zero tracks. This might be because the original Subnautica composer, Simon Chalinsky, who had been working on the DLC, had been fired in February of 2018 over controversial tweets. Below Zero's new composer, Ben Prutney, had been brought on board in December of the same year, and it's possible he simply hadn't had time to get any new music created by the time of the January launch. On a side note, Ben actually live streamed himself making some of the game's music using the strangest instrument I have ever seen, which also happens to be called a waterphone. You just couldn't make this stuff up. In the developer's own words, this build of the game was full of bugs, ran poorly, and included only a small amount of the game's final features, but they did have their experience from Subnautica to call on, and a secret weapon. When making Subnautica, the developers ensured they got the community feedback they needed by adding a feedback system directly into the game. Pressing F8 or escape would give the player the option to send a message straight to the developers. This feedback screen would also give the player's location in the world, helping the developers find the location of any issues. Over time, clusters and patterns emerged in these reports, and heat maps were generated where players were running into issues. This allowed the developers to target improvements in problematic areas where the most issues were occurring, and also let them see where positive feedback was being received, so they could replicate it and improve the wider game. Using the data they had from the feedback system, they could also add new stories as you progressed, as they knew what equipment and vehicles the player had at any given time. By measuring what vehicles or oxygen tanks the player had, they could see how deep the player could dive, so they knew which parts of the map you could reach and loot. For example, the Sunbeam missions would only start after you had a working radio, and they used the game's depth mechanic to progress the story of the infection. The deeper you go, the worse it gets. This system was directly imported into Below Zero, and would allow the developers to see which parts of the game were working well and what needed to change in future updates. They also recreated their public development board. This page hosted on Favreau allowed anyone to see the developer's roadmap and where the game was going, so they could give feedback on features ahead of time. On the 4th of February 2019, not long after the game's initial release, the developers started to upload experimental builds to Steam, where players could play the very version the developers were working on that day. There was no password and you could just download and play whenever you felt like it. These builds were full of bugs and game-breaking glitches, but let the developers have feedback in real time from playtesters. The game's first full update was released on the 8th of March 2019 and brought the sea truck to Sector Zero's seas. Or should I say its skies, as this funny bug shows how placing an item in the sea truck made it fly into orbit. This version of the game also included a number of other features and map changes, bringing the deep twisty bridges and thermal spires to the game. This was also when those cheeky little sea monkeys were added, and we can't forget about the squid shark either. Alongside this update, Unknown Worlds released a short promotional video, an idea they originally stole from Valve, who did the same thing with Team Fortress 2. Unknown Worlds had used this idea previously in the original Subnautica, and decided to do the same with Below Zero. Moving forward, all the major updates would get one of these mini videos showcasing its key features, which was great for the game's marketing. By the 24th of April, Unknown Worlds were tired of just unintentional things floating and decided it was time to bring the previously teased Snow Fox into the game for real. And while it might not be very useful now, as you can just brute force your way through the game's land sections using the prawn suit, back then it was the only land vehicle available. Well, as long as you didn't use console commands, as this update added the prawn suit blueprint, but it required reinforced glass to craft, something that wasn't in the game and would later be cut completely. There was also a pretty funny bug with the Snow Fox, where if you died while driving, you would respawn back at your base. Well, at least the top half of you would. Your legs, on the other hand, would still be stuck to the Snow Fox, stretching your body across the map. The Snow Fox update also let you interact with glow whales for the first time, so petting and riding glow whales was very much in fashion. The update also brought the Calycerate to Sector Zero, a creature previously teased in Alex's concept art, and in my opinion the most important Leviathan in the game, as it's the one you encounter most frequently. significantly. A month later, the 5th of June would see James Bond come to 4546B. The Spy Pengling update added a very cool, if limited use, remote-controlled robotic pengling to the game, allowing you to fit in with the herd and gradually work your way up the social ladder until you became the undisputed ruler of the Penguin Kingdom. Okay, so maybe I made that last part up, but you definitely could create the Spy Pengling. The Spy Pengling was actually a community idea, so if you ever want to see evidence of the benefits of the early access development model, this is it. This update also brought our favourite stationary friends, the Vent Garden, to the game, along with the tree spars biome they sit in. Temperature was also added at this point, so after getting rejected from the penguin colony, you could realistically simulate the shunning of society and being forced out into the cold, although luckily it wasn't yet possible to freeze to death. At this point, good progress was being made, however not all was going smoothly at Unknown Worlds. On the 11th of July, a statement was released addressing the game's roadmap. The problem was, the roadmap had become so large and unwieldy that members of the team were starting to feel under significant pressure to complete areas of the board within their given time frame, even if these weren't critically important. The roadmap was like a hedge, wild and growing in multiple directions, causing the team to feel bogged down in work that they weren't even sure was needed at that moment in time. This resulted in members of the team undertaking the dreaded gaming industry crunch of working to hard deadlines every 6 weeks or so, leading to burnout. Moving forward, the studio announced that the roadmap would only be used for highlighting what was to be released in the near future, allowing them to work on the game's critical features in an order that made sense, and not creating work for work's sake. Having sympathy for your rejection from the penguin colony and subsequent force into the cold, on the 17th of July, Unknown Worlds dropped the Arctic Living update, bringing the cold suit for your protection along with the new large room base piece and glass ceilings, and to cheer you up even more, they even made a little jukebox to soothe your soul, from which you could play your own music. This was also when the prawn suit became craftable, and consigned the Snow Fox to not much more than a quirky distraction. 2 months later, on the 17th of September, Unknown Worlds would be back with one of the game's most iconic updates. The Iceworm update finally brought its namesake into the game, along with the frozen Leviathan excavation site and the Arctic Spires biome. We also finally got the bioreactor, so you could take revenge on the penguins that disowned you by turning them into fuel to power your base. But we also got something new, a story rework. In this update, all the previously recorded audio for the story was ripped out of the game, and the game's story rework began. This was set to introduce more tension to the game's opening scene, but nothing was concrete and this was all text-based for now. As a consolation prize, the storm that featured at the start of the game was now turned into a cool new meteor shower, similar to what we would see in the final build. You might have noticed that so far I haven't discussed the game's story, but this is where the real difficulties would begin. Throughout Below Zero's early access period, a story and narrative have been created and expanded with each update, but even with the original rework already underway, on the 22nd of November 2019, everything changed. Unknown Worlds released a statement saying they were happy with how the game was shaping up, except in one key area, the story. Unknown Worlds had wanted to create a living story with Below Zero, featuring a speaking protagonist and other voice characters, in stark contrast to the silent and more exploratory nature of the storytelling in the original Subnautica. But the developers deliberately chose this style to differentiate the two games. But Unknown Worlds had been having trouble defining their characters' true motivations and getting the community to care what happened to them. A short time before this statement was released, in October, the game's writer Tom Joubert had left Below Zero to pursue other projects. Tom said on Twitter that he wanted to focus more on indie projects and that Subnautica was just getting bigger. Tom had worked on the story for the original Subnautica and was responsible for creating much of the universe that we'd come to know and love, so this was obviously a huge blow. I was curious to see if there was more to this situation than had previously been revealed publicly, so I reached out to Unknown Worlds to try and get a response. Unfortunately, they didn't respond, but I also reached out to probably the most important person in all this, Tom, the game's former narrative lead, and he did respond. And what he said reveals a lot more about what was happening behind the scenes at Unknown Worlds at this time. At this stage in development, Tom had produced about half the game's story. A bare-bones first draft of all the main story beats was in the game, but other pieces to give added detail were still required, with some scenes highly developed and others still needing a lot of work. And this is where things were starting to go wrong. Internal company feedback around the story wasn't particularly glowing, from what I can only assume was data gathered from the game's feedback system and fans on social media. Tom was happy with his story, but management at Unknown Worlds wanted to rework key parts of the plot in order to satisfy unhappy fans. Tom then became bogged down rewriting key early and mid-game scenes in an attempt to craft a narrative that was better received. But in the end, all the problems had started to stack up. Tom's original vision for a fun story had become plagued by rewrites and worries of sequelitis. Tom would eventually leave the company in what he described as a mutual breakup. Neither he nor the company was getting what they really wanted, and the whole situation was causing Tom a lot of stress. He knew at at the time that leaving would likely result in major changes to his original story, as any new writer has to make what they inherit their own, with Tom citing changes to the PDA's voice and Marguerite's personality as changes he feared they would make once he left the company. Ultimately, Tom had just become sick of the problems that this particular project had been throwing his way, and would cite personal and ethical differences along with a lack of financial incentive to continue to work for the studio. Although he did give me the disclaimer that these are all normal issues in game development, he thought the team at Unknown Worlds was great, they just weren't in the position to pull out all the stops required to keep him at the company. Following Tom's departure, Unknown Worlds swiftly brought in Jill Murray as the game's new narrative designer. Jill had previously worked on Tomb Raider and the Assassin's Creed series, so had plenty of experience under her belt. But after lengthy internal discussions at the company, the decision was made to rework the story they were already in the process of reworking, and that the next update, Deep Dive, would be the final version containing this narrative. In retrospect, this actually turned out to not be quite true, as after Deep Dive, the final update featuring the original story was the Lost Ship update, but for all intents and purposes, this was the end of the original narrative. To skip forward in time for a second, Jill would release a post on the 17th of April 2020 talking about how Unknown Worlds approached storytelling. Essentially, any narrative content was split into lots of tiny pieces and chucked all over the seafloor to allow the player to explore and experience the story in as unlinear way as possible. This was complicated by the game's speaking protagonist, but they didn't want this to railroad the player too heavily in one direction. The design of the game's story itself would involve lots of internal discussion around how characters should behave, how cinematics can be used effectively, and what kind of gameplay mechanics could be used to keep things interesting. These discussions weren't just internal, and the team would also reach out to external experts for help and advice. After a cycle of discussions, Jill would produce diagrams to help map the game's direction, and once new meetings had been held, more diagrams would be produced. And over time, these debates would naturally shift away from brainstorming and towards refinement of what had already been agreed. But the problem Unknown Worlds now faced was how to tell a new story in a world they'd already built. Many of Below Zero's environments had already been created, which meant any new story was going to have to be moulded around a foundation that had already been laid. There simply wasn't time or money to rip up everything and start again, and neither did they want to, as much of the world was already great. The Deep Dive update was released just 5 days after the statement about Below Zero's future on the 27th of November 2019. This would bring the terrifying Shadow Leviathan and the Crystal Caves biome to Below Zero, along with the Cryptosuchus and Marguerite Mider's base. This update would also see a new voice for Robin brought to the game, replacing her original British voice actress with another different British voice actress. This was because the original voice actress was not available to record new lines for the story, which might sound a little strange, but keeping staff employed for long periods of time is expensive, so typically recording is done in one session and then these staff move on. But due to the game's extensive rewrites, they needed to go back to the recording studio, and as the original actress wasn't available, the decision was taken to replace her with a new voice. The 17th of December would see another update on the console versions of the game. The plan was still to launch on all consoles simultaneously once early access was complete, and Unknown Worlds were working on improving their in-house efforts to do this after working with Panic Button and Grip Games for the ports of the original Subnautica. This would require major improvements to the game's technical infrastructure and was taking significant effort and time to achieve. This was the end of any updates in 2019, and the next release, the final major update with the existing story, took place on the 19th of February 2020. The Lost Ship update brought the wreckage of the Mercury 2, a missing spaceship, to Below Zero, along with beautiful nighttime auroras and other minor changes. The final build for the original story would be released on the 6th of March after some final polishing, and with it closed a significant chapter in Below Zero's development. Maybe we can say this story froze to death, as this was the first time you could actually die from the cold. I will now cover a brief breakdown of the original story. I won't cover every detail and change, but hopefully this shows just how comprehensive the rewrite yet to come truly was. This version of Below Zero begins at Outpost Zero. In the full game, this location is completely destroyed, but in this timeline, this place is in full working order. Robin and a team of other scientists have been conducting research on 4546b after the events of Subnautica. The key players in our story consist of Robin, her sister Sam, and a man named Jevov, also known as Jeff. As our story begins, Robin awakes to the sound of blaring alarms, as a meteor storm showers the planet, threatening to kill everyone in the area. She needs to evacuate to an orbital research station called the Vesper to ensure her safety, which just so happens to be where her sister is. Unfortunately, Jeff seems to have disappeared at just the wrong moment, so Robin needs to go and grab him so they can get off the planet's surface. It turns out Jeff has woken something up in the Architect base they were studying, and a booming alien voice at the entrance of the facility implies that it might have done something unfortunate to him. As Robin leaves the area and chaos unfolds, someone seems to have launched the only ship they have to get off the surface. Maybe Jeff is still alive after all. With Robin now stuck, she will need to shelter at the next best alternative, the research base where she started. Well, so much for that. With the base destroyed, Robin is forced to enter the water and swim to safety, and Sam sends down an emergency life pod from the Vesper. This reflects much of what happens throughout the story. While in the Below Zero we know today, Sam is missing and presumed dead, in this old version of the script she is very much alive and providing help throughout the game by sending down aid from orbit. Later on, we have an almost carbon copy of the scene where Robin meets Alan in the final game, but initially Alan is a lot more hesitant to trust Robin than in the final build. Robin and Alan, now existing in the same skull, continue to explore the planet, and while trying to repair a radio antenna to re-establish contact with the Vesper, run into Marguerite Mida, a survivor from the original Subnautica, which pretty much plays out how it does in the final game. She tells Robin not to follow her, and that's about it. After some more wandering, Robin finds Jeff's crashed ship outside a lab in the glacial basin, meaning he must be nearby, and eventually Robin traces his signal to a door in the ice. Inside the bunker, Robin finds a log from Jeff saying he's still looking for Alan, as he doesn't believe he was destroyed in the meteor storm. Eventually, Robin finds the frozen Leviathan and sends samples of the Carabacteria covering its body up to Vesper Station for analysis, using a rocket launched from Delta Island. She does this as this was meant to be extracted by other researchers, but this was delayed by the evacuation. While this has been happening, Robin has decided to hide the presence of Alan from her sister, as she is unsure what she or Altera might do if they discover the truth. But there is a growing sense that Sam knows Robin is lying about something. Shortly after, the Vesper manages to contact Jeff. He's alive and says he's decided to stay behind to try and look for the architect. He's ordered to stand down by Sam and wait for a dropship to pick him up. He agrees, but sounds somewhat reluctant. As Robin continues to navigate the seafloor, she ends up finding Marguerite's hidden base. Upon entering, Robin notices that Marguerite has the tablet required to access the facility she was studying at the start of the game, but she's not really keen on the idea of sharing it. But maybe if Robin helps her get off this planet, she might think about giving it to her. The main plot thickens further when the Kara sample sent by Robin never arrives at Vesper Station, and then not long later, the only samples of Enzyme 42 on the Vesper also disappear. Robin must now find a Sea Emperor to get more in case of an outbreak, and after securing a sample, she again sends this into orbit, but a strange force field destroys the rocket before it can reach its target. It turns out our friend Jeff isn't actually our friend. He was the one who destroyed the Enzyme 42 samples, and now he has released the Kara Robin sent skyward onto the people aboard the Vesper, demanding the station withdraw to seek medical assistance or they're all going to die. He wants Alan, and he knows that Robin has him. The Vesper's director orders Marines to storm the planet. They want the last living architect and they need the Enzyme 42. But unfortunately for them, the shield blocks them from landing, so there's nothing they can do. Alan reveals he knows a way to deactivate the shield from a facility inside the planet, although he doesn't seem to particularly want to, as Jeff's actions have protected you from Altera. While all this has been going on, much like the final game, Alan wishes to have a new body, and Robin has started to help him by scanning the various parts needed to construct a new one. The construction process plays out pretty much how it does in the final build of the game, and at this point the pair have to reach the mountain facility to disable the shield and save Sam, and this is where the playable story ends. But there are some leaked unfinished assets which reveal the original ending. Marguerite gives Robin the white tablet needed to get into the facility, likely in order to set some kind of ambush for your mutual foe. Robin and Alan head inside, and it's revealed that Alan has a way off the planet without needing to disable the force field. He's just going to leave and let the humans destroy each other, but Robin pleads that he must disable the shield in order to save Sam. Alan says that he could disable the shield remotely if he knew where Jeff was, but he doesn't know where he is. Robin begs Sam to give her Jeff's location, and once she does, Alan disables the force field. But with the sky now clear, a gunship full of Marines arrives at the facility trying to kill Robin and capture Alan. And just as all seems lost, Marguerite and her modified prawn suit sweep in to save the day, hijacking the ship and taking the crew hostage. Marguerite agrees to take some Enzyme 42 samples to the Vesper as she leaves the planet, and like in the final game, Alan and Robin travel to the Architect homeworld. Now I'm not going to break down all my issues with the final version of Below Zero's story in this video. In fact, I've already covered some of that in the first Subnautica video I made on this channel, so if you want to see that, then you can go and watch it. But I'm going to slightly break the timeline of events here and say this story is way better than the one we got in the full release, and knowing what I know now from researching this topic, I can see why. So much of what made it into the final version of Below Zero is taken from this story. In fact, lots of Tom's favourite lines made it into the final game, but this story actually has rational characters and relevant environments. The frozen Leviathan has a purpose, Marguerite has a purpose, there's actually stakes on the line here, whereas in the final cut of the story, the frozen Leviathan seems pointless as it's just a side objective. You don't even need to destroy the Kara samples to complete the game. So Marguerite's inclusion in the story to destroy an Alterra research lab containing other samples is also completely pointless. Sam's death is irrelevant, as it's part of this optional story chain, and Robin can even leave the planet without ever finding out what happened to her sister, which was Robin's entire mission at the start of the game's new story. This shows the issues that occur when you change a story so far into a game's development, and then you have to rewrite a story around assets that already exist. Vesper Station has pretty much disappeared from the final build of the game, in what was originally a pretty big part of the plot. It can still briefly be seen in the game's opening cinematic as a repurposed generic satellite, but apart from this, you'll never see it again. In retrospective, I think changing this story was a huge mistake. All the things that Unknown Worlds wanted to fix by changing the story, like making you care about the characters and be interested in their fates, was completely trashed in the rework. In fact, personally, I think they actually made the problem worse, because the original story seems a lot more coherent and frankly more interesting. Okay, now let's get back to the chronological timeline of events. Not long after the final story build was released, on the 30th of April 2020, the first build of the new story would arrive. The Frostbite update had our protagonist launching from a ship in a drop pod as meteors rained all around them. This new action-packed opening had our hero smash to the floor and straight into the action. This update brought us the Glacial Bay and a major rework of the Glacial Basin. The developers admitted they were having trouble with some of the game's land-based areas and were trying to make them feel more connected to the game's typical underwater environment. Later, they even had to add new holes in the land to make sure you could get back to the water more easily, as players were getting stuck spending too much time on land and away from the core watery gameplay. This update also added snowballs which you could throw at snowstalkers, and plenty of other minor quality of life updates, improving the UI and unlock methods for basic tools. However, implementing the start of a whole new story did throw up another problem. As this version of the game was so different to what had come before, this update would break any save files from older versions of the game, forcing players to either keep playing on their old saves or rip the band-aid off and start a new adventure. This was fine on Steam, as you had the choice of what you wanted to do, but for non-Steam players there was no choice. When the new story dropped, your old save was unplayable, and there was no option to roll back. But aside from the technical issues with trying to implement a new story, Unknown Worlds had another problem: recording the audio for it. This stage of Below Zero's development was taking place as the pandemic was beginning to ramp up. Unknown Worlds staff are based all over the world, and most had been working from home for some time, so general development continued with minimal disruption. But the real problem was getting the new story's audio into the game. The audio recording studio the developers were using was based in the UK, and the country's lockdown rules had caused the studio to close. Originally, Robin's first two voice actresses had been British, along with her sister Sam, but as of this build they were no longer present in the game, and they were replaced with American alternatives. The reason for this was that the developers felt that Robin's second voice didn't fit the new reworked character they wanted to portray with the new narrative. All these recording problems meant Robin and Sam had some in-game voices, but pretty much nobody else did. So for the next few months, the game's story was mostly text-based, but at least the intro had audio. By this point, we now had our third version of Robin's voice, and our second for Sam. Personally, I prefer Robin's first voice, but, you know, maybe I'm biased. But this does show the problems that occur when undertaking so many script rewrites. They also renamed the sisters from Robin and Sam Goodall to Robin and Sam Are You, probably to draw a line under the old timeline. On June 25th, we would see the Salad Days update, with changes to the many stations and bases scattered across the planet, as well as improvements to Marguerite's greenhouse. The rocket launch site previously sat on Delta Island was replaced with the far less epic communication relay, and all the other bases were given a destructive upgrade to make them look abandoned. The game also saw improvements to its environments, with the glacial forest being added at this point. We also got the Glacial Basin Bridge, so you could get some air with your Snow Fox, and gained the ability to study dead iceworms by looking at their giant bones in the iceworm graveyard. Strangely though, we lost the intro audio we got in the previous update, leaving us with this very long and awkward silent intro scene, as the developers again wanted to change the dialogue in this scene. The 13th of August would see the Stranger Things update dropped, which I could only assume is a reference to the Stranger Things TV show. It appears this update was named after the signals found in your PDA which pointed towards alien artifacts. Overall, this update was mostly polish, adding achievements, more jukebox discs, lore information that could be found in the world, and general graphical improvements. This was also when the original PDA voice was changed to the new version found in the final build of Below Zero. Just 5 days later, a new trailer would drop on the Subnautica YouTube channel, announcing that Subnautica and Below Zero would be coming to the Nintendo Switch. This was actually a major achievement, as many at the studio had initially thought that getting the game to run on Switch was impossible due to hardware limitations, but after working with game developers Shiny Shoe and Unity professionals, they eventually made it work. A few months later, the 29th of October would see the release of the Relics of the Past update, and significantly, this is when full voice acting for the game was completed and the game's world map was finalised. In traditional game development, most studios record all their audio once the game is complete, so it seems this was the approach they took, and considering all the rewrites that were needed, it was probably safer to do this at the end so they didn't have any more problems with voice acting. Most of the other changes in this update related to makeovers of existing biomes and again working on the game's polish, finalising item icons and removing ones that weren't needed. The game wasn't yet finished, but this is where Below Zero really started to feel like a cohesive experience, and the game's many strands were finally starting to come together. January 5th, 2021 would see price increases across the board for Below Zero and the original Subnautica. While Below Zero was in early access, the price was set at $20 to reflect its work in progress status. However, as the game moved towards completion, the price needed to increase to reflect this, and the price was raised to $30. This was always going to happen as part of the early access development model, but what's more interesting is the increase in price of the original Subnautica, from $25 to $30. The reason given for this was that the original Subnautica was going to continue to receive updates, but it was probably because of renewed interest in the title from the attention Below Zero was generating. Below Zero's final early access update ahead of full release came on the 25th of February, the aptly named Seaworthy update where the game's final 54-track OST was implemented and the tiny loading bar pengling was added. I think we can all agree that makes this the best update. They also supercharged the prawn suit, improving its jump speed and giving it the ability to boost when moving. This update also added controller and rumble support, even though the game wouldn't actually be available on console until the final release. The 13th of April would see the release of Below Zero's cinematic trailer. Made in partnership with Real Time UK, the trailer announced that the game would be releasing on all platforms on the 14th of May 2021. And when the 14th finally arrived, the game was officially released, adding the game's ending with the Architect homeworld and the game's full achievement list. Although that wasn't quite the end of the story, as even though the game was finished, Unknown Worlds would later add language packs on the 19th of August that year. And to many people's surprise, over a year later, another small update known as What the Dock was released on the 13th of September 2022, which added the much needed sea truck dock along with other minor changes. Below Zero released to relatively good review scores and was even nominated for a number of Navigator awards in 2022, picking up the win in the special class category. Official sales statistics for Below Zero have never been released, but Video Game Insights, a website which estimates sales of games on Steam, seems to suggest it sold just over a third of what Subnautica did, which certainly isn't a disappointment considering its size and scale. So that was the development of Below Zero, and it seems like it was a little messy to say the least. My biggest takeaway from this is just how much the story changed while also not changing that much at all. Obviously, having already created so much of the game by the time the rewrites were made had painted the developers into a corner, so much of what was found in the final release is heavily linked to what had come before. Knowing what we know now, I can see why the final version of Below Zero has a bit of a lackluster story, but I'm still not convinced that changing direction so drastically was really the best idea. Fundamentally, the original story was never actually complete, so it's possible community feedback played a role in this change by judging something that wasn't finished. This is now just a matter of what ifs, but it does highlight that while there are great positives from the early access business model, it could result in decisions that maybe aren't always the best and taken with incomplete information, when really what they needed to do was to stick to their guns. Thank you again to Tom for answering my questions for this video. His first-hand account has really improved our understanding about what was happening at Unknown Worlds during this time and how we got to where we are today. Overall, I hope this experience has helped Unknown Worlds to learn valuable lessons for the development of the next Subnautica game. Either way, I'll be here to see how it goes. Subnautica contains some of the most terrifying creatures in gaming, but what if I told you this entire world can be conquered by one small plant? Well, actually a creature, as a coral is technically an animal, apparently, but whatever. This is the brain coral, a thing I'm sure many of you who have played Subnautica have seen before. But what you didn't know is that this little guy is actually the most broken thing in the game. While on the surface the brain coral doesn't seem to be particularly important, it has a very unique ability. It produces an infinite supply of oxygen, so every now and again it will release 3 bubbles of oxygen, and if you swim into them, each one will replenish a player's oxygen supply by 10 points. Whether those bubbles only contain oxygen is up for debate, as members of my Discord community seem to have begun worshipping them as some kind of god, from what I can only assume is a strange mind-controlling chemical. But if brain corals produce infinite oxygen, in theory we can use them to beat the game. If I grow enough of them, I'll be able to breathe anywhere on the map, whether I'm 50 meters below the surface or 500. All I need to do is collect seeds from a brain coral, make an underwater planter, and wait for them to grow. Then all I need to do is repeat this setup and I can go anywhere I like. No oxygen tanks tanks or rebreather required. So can I become the conqueror of brain corals, the breaker of bubbles, and the saviour of 4546B? It's time to find out. We're going in. Alright, so first things first, we're going to need a knife. Die, mushroom! Oh god, I've just injured myself. Alright, sea glide acquired. I suppose I should start actually getting brain coral samples, right? Are they indestructible? I'm assuming they're indestructible. We're gonna hide in here so we don't get gassed out. So now we need to go to a Degassi base. Okay, we have arrived. Scan the grow bed. I suppose we should grab the little tablets, because that's always useful. Ah, get off me. I'm doing a Skyrim. Man tries to do brain coral challenge and ends up falling off a cliff. Imagine if you planted so many brain coral, it just started drinking the ocean. So, it's only 2 titanium. That's good, actually. That's really good. Obviously, they don't start producing air until they're fully grown. They only grow, like, during the daytime, maybe? We are learning as we go. Maybe I should just put it down here somewhere. We're almost dying each time we do this. I think I'm going a little bit too far on, like, my initial run. Okay, there's a Reaper there. Let's not get too close to him. We'll just put one here. Get some brain corals growing. Am I going to make this? Oh, God. This is going to be tight. Okay, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. Oh, we're good. As we're over here, we might as well go over here, hadn't we? I don't know if there's going to be any use for these ion cubes, but hey, we'll take them anyway, right? I've got to say, Riley's a real trooper for taking that, and he doesn't even scream. Are they grown? No, not quite. Okay, back to the surface before we drown. Does this come all the way to the surface? Wow, I think they do. Look at that. Look at this. This is what it's about. Station 1. This is our first little outpost. We don't want to space them too far apart, because then we have to make loads, but we don't want to, like, go too far either. Will they even grow at the bottom of the world? It's not flat enough. That is not a long way. That's like 100 meters between stations. Oh god! Oh god, that got... that made me jump. Can you please go away, Reaper? I just want to be a brain coral farmer. This... God damn it, what is this? I can't go forward because it's literally right there. Of all the places you could be, why here? Please leave me alone. Please leave me alone. You're not leaving me alone. All right, get him in the planter. Get him in the planter. Go back, go back. We just need to go back and do like another 2, right? This guy's coming for me while I'm trying to explain what I'm doing. Does this guy really have to sit right there? And you? Why can't you go away? Oh my god. They're going for each other. And me. Leave me alone. I've got the entire ocean. Why are you here? We'll plant another 2, so we've got the whole thing growing. See, we're kind of limited until Beacon 2 grows now. Can you go away? What is it with the wildlife trying to just kill me all the time? I suppose I could set up a little base on the mountain island, right? I just want like the bare minimum. I just need some way to not die, feed myself, and wait. There goes that. I don't know if I'm far enough away to not be irradiated. Hopefully they've grown by now. If these come up all the way to the surface, no matter how deep they are, then that means this first station will almost be irrelevant because it will just be like, oh yeah, I can just go from here now. It's kind of hard to tell where we need to be going. Yeah, I'm not sure if this even is the right way, you know? That's super frustrating because that means we've like kind of set stuff up in the wrong place. Exterior grow bed, go down. I've been doing this for like 2.5 hours now, and all I've got to show for it are like these 2 stations and that one I made a little bit further over. We'll get another grow bed going. If you go too far, you just drown, and then you have to make that whole trip again. Plant all of these. Please produce some air. Station 3. We are getting closer. I'm pretty sure this is the sinkhole. I might just start doing one-way runs. Just go down, get as far as I can, die, place it, because at least then I know that I'm getting the most value. You still beat the game even if you die a lot, right? Down towards the sinkhole. Get all these planted. The annoying thing with this is you kind of just have to wait for them to grow, because they're just useless to you before that point. But I suppose the game wasn't designed around trying to beat the game with brain corals. They're not grown yet. Now I'm gonna die again. Into the Lost River. Maybe having one right at the bottom here would be good. Get it down. Down we go again. I'm just kind of autopilot now because I know I'm on top of it. This is why the beacons are super important, because I'd never be able to find this. Okay, good. Right, this is set up. Station 5. So we can now get all the way down to the entrance of the Lost River. Okay, hopefully these are still going to grow in here. I put it up here. At least it should be easy to see then. I love bubbles. Let's replant everything and then wait for 10 years for it to grow. Because I haven't figured out how long they take to grow, it's just like, oh, I guess I've got to guess now to see if they've finished. Station 6. Oh, I'm into Bernie territory. I'm out of it again? That was really weird. Is that a glitch? That wasn't supposed to happen, I don't think. Down here? Oh, I might be pushing this too far. I might have gone too far with this one. I might have to just scrap it and move back a bit. Here will do, I suppose. This is definitely a test of will. How much tedium can you take? Don't beds actually bring the clock forward? it might actually skip forward time and make the plants grow faster, which is one of the big problems I'm having right now. I think my best plan of attack is to actually go for the Degassi base in the jelly shroom, which is just down here. Oh, am I going to get this down before I suffocate? Ooh, come on. Get a few of them in there. At least I can get down here now. It's a double bed. That's kind of annoying because it's more costly than a single bed. Why is there a peeper in here? How did you even get in here? There's a shut door here, and there's a shut hatch up there. Are you spying on me? Let's make this multi-purpose room. The whole base is only needed for this one thing. Yeah, I can hear the Reaper again. I hope he's not going to come ambush me a second time. You see, on the inside, I'm quite like a brain coral too. I sit and I breathe, and I don't really do anything productive. The bed is an absolute game changer, that's for sure. It's like half the waiting time. Okay, maybe this is enough. Get the planter down. I've only got 2% battery left in the Sea Glide. I'm hoping that's going to get me there. No, don't make me waste the trip again. All right, let's actually remember. Whoa, I can actually break them? I didn't think that was possible. Come on, brain coral, give me some oxygen. Let's try and get one right at the bottom. Where's the grow bed? Oh, I can sleep. Yes, yes, I've never been so happy to go to bed. We've got a Ghost Leviathan coming down. Uh-oh, is it going to keep coming? Okay, it stopped. So I'm going to start taking the heat damage now. Next goal, thermal plant. I suppose we'll put one here. Ghost Leviathan, you're kind of in the way. Please don't eat me. 93%. Are you kidding me? Oh, no. Please don't do that. Please don't do that. Please don't teleport there. Oh, no. Oh, please leave me alone. This time we can be friends, right? Or at least don't blast me until I've refilled. Why is this guy right by the door every time I come through this area? Oh, no. That was not good timing. Please. I need to stop. Please, leave me alone. Refilling with oxygen while not getting murdered by warpers is actually proving to be quite a difficult task because they really like chasing me. Whoa, or spawning things in front of me just like that. Oh, talk about out of the frying pan into the fire. This guy is always right where I don't want him to be. Whoa. Oh, no. Get off me. I think I've just been one shot. No, I'm okay. What's going on? He, like, took control of me. This guy, he's like a guard dog. He just won't leave. Every time I come to this area, he's right there. Come on, man. Can't you go somewhere else for like 5 minutes? Oh god, he one-shot me. It's like swimming through Death Alley. Oh, come on, man. You've got to be trolling me. This isn't even the cavern. Oh my god. Why are you even here? You should be in the cave. Why are you still here? Why? Why am I still here? Am I just here to suffer? It's like specially assigned to stop me getting through. This is the time, I believe. Leave me alone, leave me alone, leave me alone. We're going in. Are we in? We're in. Oh, thank God. We just need to get the blue tablet. This is what we came here for. That's one major milestone on our journey. I'm pretty sure if we die holding the tablet, we get to keep it. I just wanted to... Okay, suppose we're going to find out if I've got that blue tablet still. Oh my god, I've lost the blue tablet. Get that down. Oh, I can't put it on lava. Just over this hill is the primary containment facility. We're closing in. Sorry, Sea Emperor. I really need to go to sleep right now. Into the jaws of death once more. Please. No. Ah! It's right over my head. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. Give me the oxygen, please. The final stretch. Now I just need to go back. To get into the primary containment facility, I needed 2 blue tablets, and after losing my first one, I was going to have to craft them both. Luckily, I only needed 2 ion cubes and 4 kyanite to do this, but the problem was I needed to go to the bottom of the world to get the resources, and then make it back up to the surface without dying so I could actually craft the tablets I needed. At least we have everything in place now to get where we need to go. Please leave me alone. Haven't got time to faff around. Oh my god, that hurt. Have you seen me? Please haven't seen me. Oh my god. Alright, we're in. Where can I find some kyanite without dying? Let's go grab the ones off the walls, because these ones are kind of safe. I don't want to be like trying to find them and trying to get out at the same time. I think that's like a recipe for disaster. So I've got the 4, that's what I needed. I worried I might have lost the cube, but we've definitely still got it. Now we just have to get back to the surface. It's really easy to get disorientated in this cave system. Oh, come on. Come on. Oxygen, please. Avoid the sea dragon. Might have to pop a health kit, actually. It's getting a bit dicey. Oh, that hurt. Uh-oh, uh-oh, uh-oh. Where's the next checkpoint? Have I gone past it? There it is. Oh, I almost lost it. That was real bad. Follow the bubbles. Stay away from me, Ghost Leviathan. We're out of the main danger zone now. Okay, we have everything we need. It's time to craft the 2 blue tablets, get some more first aid kits, and pray to every god you can think of. Alright, this is it. This is where the real danger starts. If we fail here, it's gonna be real sad. I almost feel like this little gauntlet is the worst bit. Oh no, I can hear hear the warping behind me. Where is the sea dragon? Keep going and top up fast. I don't want to hang around out here. We're going to do it. We're in. I don't know where the sea dragon was, but I'm not going to complain. Get that door open now. That's such a good noise to hear after all of this. Let's go and meet the sea emperor. You're going to have to talk quick because I don't have a lot of air. I'm not ignoring you, I promise. I just need to refill. Oh, look at all the brain corals they've laid out here. It's like they knew I was going to do this. I just need to grab this. Thank you very much. They've even got one right next to the incubator, look. All right, get that in there. There we go. We finally have the hatching enzymes. From here, I did the usual Subnautica stuff of gathering the resources to make the hatching enzymes, collecting the Neptune escape rocket plans from inside the Aurora, disabling the quarantine enforcement platform, and building the rocket to leave the planet. But compared to the challenge of getting to the primary containment facility, this was pretty straightforward. So I managed to save the planet, and I didn't even get mind controlled in the process. I just have to thank the brain coral for smiling on me and letting me be its dutiful servant on 4546b. You know, maybe I'll go and build a temple to honour it and fill it full of precious metals. Maybe then the voice that's whispering inside my head will stop. Coral be with you, and I'll see you next time. Lots of things in Subnautica produce bubbles. You, your vehicles, and even the wildlife. These are normally a good thing, especially when they restore your oxygen supply. But what happens when you have too much of a good thing? Is it possible for a game based almost entirely underwater to have too many bubbles? To find out, I'm going to plant as many brain coral as I can. As they produce 3 bubbles of oxygen every few seconds, if I plant enough of them, I can turn the ocean into one giant field of bubbles. How much can 4546b take before it breaks? It's time to find out. Okay, this is the first of many. We're just going to put them everywhere. Well, I'll cover the whole map if we have to. Where is our specimen? You will be the blueprint for our world domination. I've already lost count of how many of these things there are. Okay, we have our first 4 brain corals. We just need to... Whoa, what happened there? We can just use console commands to make these grow fast. This is going to be a long and arduous process. Look, a seed. They call it a sample, but it's definitely a seed. Get us more brain coral. Oh no. We have our first victims. This is already quite a lot of bubbles, and this isn't even that many brain coral yet. You know, after this, the cost of brain coral is going to be super cheap. We're going to really mess up the supply chain by doing this. Valiant brain coral warriors are falling in the fight to conquer this world. Each one gives their life willingly. I'm not noticing any lag yet. I'm wondering how much of the map we're going to actually have to cover. I feel like I'm already starting to see frame drops, only ever so slightly. It's definitely not running as smoothly as it was, and we haven't really placed that many yet. This is a world of bubbles now. I don't think the game was designed with this many bubbles in mind. Don't you burp at me, gasopod. Have I done some truly bizarre challenges on this channel? Yes, I have. Am I going to stop doing them? No, I'm not. It's definitely seeing a performance hit. Going over here is bad for the game. Brain for the coral god. Nowhere is safe. I am but the brain coral's dutiful servant. The bubbles are overtaking the world. Nighttime falls on 4546b, but the work continues. We do not get stopped by such trivial things as darkness. We have the brain coral to light the way. Oh! I was right. It was but an eclipse. All praise the brain coral. Next time these guys grow, it's going to get so much worse. I am definitely seeing a frame decrease. We haven't even covered one biome. Can you actually crash the game by doing this, or will it just freeze into a completely unplayable state? Oh, there was definitely some lag there. They glow in the dark too. Look at this. The guiding light of the brain coral will lead us to salvation. There is definitely some lag going on here. What is the song about? 99 red balloons, 99 blue bubbles? Here was me thinking we might be able to cover the whole map. Something tells me that's probably not going to happen. More brain coral. We must just find spots wherever they can go. If I go here, it's like they're not being rendered. Everything feels fine. If you turn around, oh, feel the frame drop. Just don't look at it and it's fine. We're going to make the whole ocean breathable. Looking at it makes it really laggy, but if you look this way, everything is fine. It's like staring into the sun. We all want to do it, but it's not a good idea. Maybe my brain's actually been replaced by a brain coral. Maybe that's why I'm doing this. One of us, one of us, one of us. How much can the game take? I don't know. Don't look that way. Game lags. Just carry on as if nothing was happening. I originally had a plan of counting them each time I put them down, but that's quickly gone out of the window window. I honestly have no idea how many I've placed now. Look how laggy this is, and that's just with this part. What's going to happen once we get all of these grown too? I like how to start with I was placing all of these in nice little neat rows, and now it's just like, yeah, wherever there's space, just chuck one down. You think you've filled an area, but no, there's always space for more brain coral. Who'd have ever thought that too much oxygen is a bad thing? Everything in moderation, even oxygen. I think this might be enough grow beds to start planting again in. I can quite literally feel my computer giving up. Not since I made the giant land base has my computer struggled this much. I am the brain coral kingpin. Nobody can grow more brain coral than me. You better not be interfering with my bubbles over there. Don't try and hide behind that rock. The fungus is spreading. It's like the corruption in Terraria. It just goes further and further forward. I mean, you'd never struggle to breathe around here, would you? I can't believe the developers never thought of this. Why did they not stress test their game enough? Some may say that I have been brainwashed by the brain coral, but I would say it is you that has not been brainwashed enough by the brain coral. Why think for yourself when the brain coral can do it all for you, and it makes things so much more efficient? See, things on the channel started out with lore and it was all very scientific, and the longer this has gone on, we've just devolved further and further into madness. And this is the result. You gotta admit though, them brain corals do look pretty nice in the dark. It feels so much nicer being over here. As soon as you turn around, it's like, oh god, please, don't make me look at it. I dread to think what's gonna happen once these are all grown. It's gonna get so much worse. Another day is beginning on 4546B. It might be the last day. The game is definitely struggling here. These are basically all clones of that same brain coral we saw at the start. We might need some random disease that's native to 4546B to wipe them out. If only such a strange virus, maybe one that makes you break out in green spots, existed. My god, how many frames are we on now? Even the audio is lagging. The game's sound can't cope with the amount of bubbles that are on screen right now. Maybe the reason the sound is all distorted is because the brain coral are actually breaking reality itself. Maybe we're going to phase into some strange brain coral dimension where the floor, the ceiling, the walls, everything is made of brain coral. The coral rooms are stalked by a strange brain coral monster. I've got a quite good computer. This is really starting to get out of hand. I wonder if at some point the sound will just stop playing at all. Even entering the PDA is now starting to be a struggle. You know, maybe the quarantine enforcement platform wasn't to stop the Kara from leaving, it was to stop the brain coral from escaping. It's definitely getting worse. Things are slowly starting to disintegrate. It's just me and the brain coral and a horrifying frame rate. You just know every single one of these that gets planted, everything gets so much worse. This is fine. Everything's on fire. And this is fine. Oh god, the closer you get to the heart, the more things seem to deteriorate. Not even the fish can handle this. Look at them go. They don't know what to do with themselves either. Oh my god. The frame rate is dying. Time is losing all sense of meaning. See, normally when I say something breaks Subnautica, I mean that the game is playable. Whereas this time, it really does break Subnautica. It's lagging so badly now. It's getting to the point though now that even when I look away, it's still kind of laggy. It's not as bad as looking at it, don't get me wrong, but it's still lagging. There's like a tiny PDA stuck in the middle of my screen. Can you see that in the middle of the hand? The game is starting to come apart a little bit now. It's also making planting take a lot longer now. No, don't accidentally hit the PDA button. That is a big problem now. Just swimming through here is an absolute nightmare. More bubbles. This is exactly why they limit your oxygen in Subnautica. They can clearly see it's not good for you, or good for the game. Maybe getting in the life pod will save me from this nightmare. Even the inside of the life pod is not safe from the lag. I can't even see the brain corals from up here, but I can feel their effect. Oh god. It's definitely getting bad. I now have a brain coral image stuck on the screen because the game is disintegrating so badly. I'm sure YouTube loves this smooth, consistent frame rate. What a lovely viewer experience you're having right now. It feels like one of those beautiful sights you're never supposed to see. Like being the last man alive at the end of the world. Their domain must grow as my CPU shrinks. I like how in the midst of all this chaos I can still find places for more grow beds. I have not slowed this down in any way. What you are seeing right now is the actual raw gameplay. This This is so bad. I can't even turn around in one motion. So this was kind of unexpected. I left the area to try and get away from the brain coral so I could swim into the area from somewhere outside and see how the game lags out. But I'm actually now nowhere near the brain coral, and the game is still chugging itself to death, even though I am nowhere near where the brain coral are. I mean, the brain coral are over there, where the life pod is, so they're quite far away. They're probably not even loaded in, and the game still lags like crazy. Maybe it's thanks to this one brain coral here. Why are you doing this to me? Apparently the whole world is starting to suffer because of this. You come through, you kind of stuttery, but it's not terrible, and then you come through here, and the game just goes, nah, this is not the place to be. This is not the location you want to be on the map. This bit in the middle is the worst, by far. Like, this is where the game really starts to fall apart. This is how the game runs right now. This is absolutely horrible. So I think this proves my point. Can too many bubbles break Subnautica? Yes. Yes, they can. So, try not to splash so much next time, yeah? Subnautica has some pretty cool abandoned bases, ranging from the neon glow of the 80s with the Jelly Shroom Cave, all the way to the electric blue of the Deep Grand Reef, and there's even one on land. But all of these ruins were left by the crew of the Degassi, a ship that crashed on 4546b before the events of Subnautica, and they only made 3 of them. But with the power of mods, we can more than double that by adding 4 more bases to explore. Let's dive into these rusty wrecks and find out just what hidden secrets they have in store. Starting on the sun-kissed surface of the floating island, we have our first new Degassi base. This new structure sits on a giant lump of rock attached to the floating island, and the first thing you might notice is the absolutely blinding nature of this sand, which probably needs toning down a bit to fit in with the rest of the island, but if you look past that, there is some really neat Easter eggs and secrets to be found. Outside the base is wreckage and debris, with a shattered sea moth and a busted bioreactor, but more mysterious are these strange blue crystals tipped by creature eggs. These don't hatch into anything as far as I can tell, but they do look kind of neat. Maybe these alien crystals were put here by Charlie Cleveland, as a small picture of the Subnautica developer can be found on a rock nearby. One structure is a small observatory containing lots of junk, and somehow a plant that only grows underwater, but hey, it looks cool, so whatever. Inside the main structure, we have even more obscure items. One of these is the Specimen Analyzer, an object cut from Subnautica that would have allowed the player to analyze and combine creatures' DNA. As far as I can tell, this doesn't work in the mod, but it does give the base a unique look. This area also contains another strange crystal that you can actually pick up, along with a limited edition box and this very cute fluffy friend. The rest of the ruins are pretty normal by Subnautica standards, but I think this is a pretty fun, if somewhat quirky take on a Degassi base. Heading ever so slightly below the waves, we enter the crash zone and stumble across another survivor ruin. The mod describes this as being the 4th base constructed by Degassi survivor Bart Torgal before the Aurora crashed on the planet, and it's quite lucky the Aurora landed where it did, because this place was almost completely flattened in the process. Sitting just below the small island the Aurora rests on, this base adds a good point of interest in an otherwise barren location. The area surrounding the habitat is again covered in debris, with a wrecked sea moth and prawn suit as well as parts for a cyclops. The main base consists of 2 multi-purpose rooms and 2 observatories, with one still attached and one broken off from the main wreck. The first room contains an office type space with 2 small desks, a locker and a smashed water filtration machine, where Bart might have been studying a destroyed purple tablet. The base's second room is a dedicated sleeping area with a desk and cabinet, although Bart seems to have been a minimalist when it comes to other decorations. This location also contains 2 purple tablets that would be helpful to would-be explorers, and contains a few PDA entries, although these are the same as the ones found in the Jelly Shroom Cave, as the base itself is almost an exact copy of that one, although there are some minor changes. This base is another great addition for a Vanilla Plus playthrough, although I did compare the base layout to the Subnautica trailer, and it doesn't really match up with the source material for Bart's 4th base, but I don't think that's a massive problem. Just be careful when approaching this place, as it has a rather large guard dog. Venturing ever deeper, we now reach the Blood Kelp Zone, and what I'm going to call the Micro Base. This is by far the smallest Degassi base on our list, but this one has some real charm and a really comfy feel, as far as a wreck of an underwater sea base can be anyway. At over 300 meters down, this base leans over a deep underwater pit. On the outside, Inside, an exterior grow bed contains samples of many different plants alongside the wreckage of small cargo boxes. Entering through its rusty bulkhead, you're greeted by an abundance of battery technology, and this mod even contains new types of power cells if you download the optional Lots of Batteries mod, treating you to extra large magnetite and magnesium power cells. The base ends in an observatory containing a desk and chair, a broken purple tablet, and a single data box. But the thing this base really does well is its atmosphere. Its interior is covered in barnacles and hanging vines, and its outside is similarly weathered. This one actually feels like a real place, and if you told me this was in the vanilla game, I'd probably believe you, as it feels detailed enough to actually have been made by the developers. According to the mod's description, this place was made in only a couple of hours, which is really impressive. I definitely recommend checking this base out for a small but great addition to your playthrough. Our final base takes us deep into 4546B's core. This one sits next to the Great Cove Tree in the Lost River, so whoever lived here must have had one hell of a view. Outside, a couple of exterior grow beds full of plants lay next to the remains of a prawn suit, and close to the base itself sits the remains of yet another shredded sea moth. But apart from this vehicular mayhem, the debris in this area is mostly contained to the base itself, with the surrounding area left in a relatively clean condition bar a few storage boxes. The base is split into two halves. One is the typical tunnels of underwater living, and the other is a singular multi-purpose room. The tunnels don't contain a whole lot of useful resources, but do contain a single storage box with a first aid kit. The main appeal of this base lays within its multi-purpose room, which contains lockers, a table and desk, and the fragments for a nuclear reactor. But the real reward for exploring this location is the orange tablet, which is the rarest in the game and grants access to the Lost River laboratory cache. You will also find a purple tablet, an ion cube, and the blueprints for a reinforced dive suit encased within the room's green walls. So which of these new Degasi bases is your favourite? Personally, I'm going to take the risky position of saying the micro base in the Blood Kelp zone is my number one. It might be small, but I feel like the environmental storytelling is just so on point that it kind of blows everything else out of the water. In second place, I'd probably pick the base on the floating island. I like all the little secrets, and it definitely feels original and unique. I just find the colour of the sand kind of hurts my eyes a bit, but it's definitely a cool Easter egg if you're going for a less serious playthrough. In third place, I have the Cove Tree habitat, as I just like the location. And last but not least, I have the Crash Zone base, as I feel it adds a nice location to explore to an area that doesn't typically have that much going on outside the Aurora itself, but I don't feel like the inside has anything particularly unique. Let me know down below which of these bases you'll be exploring in your next playthrough. Subnautica's coolest new submarine mod has arrived, and let's just say this one is more mesmerizing than anything that has ever come before. The Blossom wouldn't look out of place orbiting the planet rather than swimming in its oceans, but these aren't solar panels, and that just makes this submarine even more interesting. The Blossom finally lets you fulfill your fantasy for Mesmer cosplay by using its giant wings to let you hypnotize almost anything on 4546B, ranging from the smallest fish to the mightiest leviathans. The mod breaks down creatures into 5 different categories: small, medium, large, leviathan, and immune. Without upgrades, the Blossom can only hypnotize small fish, but a power upgrade will allow you to mesmerize medium and larger sized creatures. And it doesn't stop there, as any hypnotized lifeform small enough will be sucked into the vehicle's onboard aquarium for collection and study. The aquarium itself can hatch up to 4 eggs 50% faster than normal and display 32 fish, although it can actually hold 64, but only the first 32 are displayed. You can also use this area as general storage, although your items might get a bit wet, but they were probably wet already, right? Unfortunately, anything that's too large for the aquarium in your base is also too large for the Blossom, so nothing larger than 2 tall or 4 wide can be added to the vehicle's onboard aquarium. But you'll still have these creatures eating out of the palm of your hand, just not inside your submarine. Although if you decide to use the 1x1 items mod, most creatures should be able to be displayed within the Blossom itself. You should also be careful what you put inside, because if the vehicle is destroyed, all of those creatures will come swimming out, and if they're no longer mesmerized, they might just see you as lunch instead. On a side note, the destroyed model for the sub also looks really cool and goes a long way to keeping you immersed in the world. Or maybe I should say mesmerized by it, because if you open the vehicle's wings and swim around its front, you might also quickly discover that you're not immune from its hypnotizing effects either. Maybe it's actually a good thing you can't fit in the aquarium. The vehicle is pushed through the water by a single large propeller powered by 3 power cells. This lets the vehicle reach a maximum speed of 11.7 meters a second when its wings are folded in, which actually makes it slightly faster than a Seamoth. With the wings deployed and mesmerizing, the speed drops to a respectable 5.2 meters a second, which is still fast enough for maneuvering in enclosed spaces. The Blossom also has a brand new onboard robotic voice to welcome you aboard and warn you when things might not be going quite to plan. The mod also comes with 2 new songs, one which plays when the vehicle is first unlocked and the other when the vehicle is first constructed. These tracks fit in well with the rest of the game and definitely meet the Subnautica vibe. If you want to craft the Blossom, first you're going to need to find and scan 5 fragments which also have a unique sound when discovered. This will then let you craft the vehicle from a mobile vehicle bay. To complete construction, you will need a titanium ingot, 2 computer chips, enameled glass, an advanced wiring kit, and a willing test subject hatched from an alien containment facility. Once built, the vehicle can be renamed and recolored by docking it in a moon pool, and don't worry if you've left the wings out on the way in, as the onboard computer is smart enough to retract them for you. The standard Blossom is pretty cool, but it can even be upgraded. Are you tired of having to leave your submarine to scan creatures? Then get yourself a scanner upgrade, and the Blossom can do it for you. When a creature is mesmerized, the submarine will scan it and add its entry to your databank, meaning you don't even have to get your fins wet. And if you're on a personal quest to eradicate Kara from 4546B, you could help the Sea Emperor spread the cure by using the Blossom's enzyme distributor. Once a peeper that has an enzyme 42 aura has made its way into your aquarium, this module will begin to cure any infected creatures in your tank. It also makes any other peepers inside into enzyme carriers, meaning you can release them to spread the cure far and wide. But the Blossom's upgrades don't stop there, as the mod should also be compatible with many of the generic vehicle framework upgrades. And if you find that getting close to alien lifeforms just isn't in your nature, then the Blossom's range upgrade is what you need, allowing you to mesmerize creatures from much further away, and that distance is something you might really come to appreciate when moving on to larger foes, as the Blossom is also compatible with many modded creatures, including those from the Red Plague, De-Extinction, and many more. The mod comes with a full suite of toggleable settings, so if you want to change the HUD size or the ability to mesmerize leviathans, you can customize the mod in many different ways, and you might even be able to hypnotize the biggest of them all, but you'll have to try that one out for yourself. Now, while the Blossom is compatible with many of the latest and greatest Subnautica mods you already know, it's also compatible with a brand new one, which promises to take exploration of the deep dark sea to a whole new level. These screenshots are a sneak preview for Beneath the Waves, a modded expansion to Subnautica that promises new biomes, fauna, flora, vehicles, and a new story, all built around the void. These teasers are really exciting, and it seems the team know exactly how to capture the mystery and the essence of the void. The Blossom and Beneath the Waves both have their own Discords, which I have linked down below, where you can stay up to date with any development news in the future. I also just want to say a big thank you to the team for letting me try out the mod early, and I've left a link down below where you can play it for yourself. The Subnautica escape room is back, but this time hell has frozen over. My friend Salvner has made a brand new escape room for Subnautica Below Zero, and it promises to test your Subnautica skills to the absolute maximum. The goal is to escape from the void and reach the end of the game and see the credits. Can I escape from my icy tomb? It's time to find out. Welcome back to the void, my friends. So last time I did an escape room by Salvner, there were a few minor explosions and a few creatures bioreacted that maybe shouldn't have been, but today is a clean slate. So there's a sea truck, that's the life pod. We've got an emergency supply cache, Delta Station. We've got a few foundations up there. Maybe we can get up there later. Okay, so we've got a recycletron. That might come in useful later. And we've got a bin, and there's nothing in that. So the lights in here are off. We've got an unpowered fabricator, a bioreactor. Now, note to self, do not put stalkers in here this time. Oh wait, this is a nuclear reactor. Forget everything I just said. It is dark down here. Here lies Penguin 1. It's a piece of titanium. It doesn't look a lot like a penguin. 4-digit penguin security lock. If you get it wrong, press unstuck and try again later. Alright, so that must be what Penguin 1 is? So Penguin 1 was titanium, right? Okay, what's down here? Okay, we're in the security lock. So there's 1, 2, 3 ways to go. I mean, we found one. One was titanium, right? So we'll go down here. More numbers. Which way should we go? Dead end. Okay, so we must have to now unstuck. Should we go in here? Is there oxygen in here? Welcome to the Subnautica backrooms. There's some notes here. Spy Penguin Control. Ruby 1, Silver 2, Titanium 3. Each penguin might be a digit in the lock. So if titanium was number 1, and titanium here is 3, maybe that makes the first digit on that lock number 3 over there. It looks like we're outside the map, actually. That's a very sheer drop. Penguin position. A bit of a viewing port? stopped. Maybe we're inside a giant spy penguin. Maybe this is the eye. Is there anything around in the room? To do, find remote. To do, penguin 3 RU. What does RU mean? Maybe the penguins are over here, so maybe we have to find the remote first. Is there anything on the beacons? Spy Pengling, Pen Guy, and Peng V. Okay, so they're over here. Ah, okay, so this gets us pretty close. Maybe we're in range from here. Or maybe we should just turn everything on. There it is, it's down there. There's a penguin. Is this near to us? What's over here before we head back? What have you set up for me this time, Salvner? Explosions, shenanigans. They always happen when you're around. Items in this area. Table coral ×2, reactor rod, and gold. So if we could find all of those, we're good. A door to the outside. There is a hatch. We must jump. Seems too high. Maybe I have to put something in the planter, like a shrub or something, and it will grow and I can jump on it outside here. So it doesn't look like an obvious way up. Do I maybe have to climb these? I can't do it. My legs are too fat for this. We need to be careful here, actually. We might freeze before I make it up. Where do we go from here? YOLO! Oh, yes. So we can't get through here, but there is a locker there. Should we try going down? Not enough space to sit. Something's blocking the chair. So that's where we came out. We went up here and we climbed in there. We then went down a ladder and ended up here. So maybe we have to go in here? I think maybe we just have to climb this. Jump! Oh, we made it. A locker. There's nothing in it. That was a letdown. So there's a flask? No, I've put it down too far away. What if I needed that? Up the ladder? Another ladder down? Was that the flask I just moved, or is that a different flask? Okay, we're on the top. A locker. We have the reactor rod. Nice. That's what we need to power up the reactor earlier on, right? Why is climbing this so difficult? So can I sit here now? Okay, we're through. This all looks the same. A piece of gold. So now we're looking for 2 table coral. There's a hidden locker. We need to jump to one of the doors, maybe? From outside? I think it's this one we're aiming for. Oh, right, we're through. It's empty. No, I can't believe this. Oh, wait, we can get through here, though. 1 more table coral. How am I supposed to get up there? Is there anything to climb? If only my legs were like 4 foot longer. If I was like 9 foot tall, this would be no problem at all. Maybe I could get on the roof and jump down. Please don't make me climb this again. No. Please, Salvner, end my suffering. Somehow we've got to get over there. Can I climb this? Can't quite make it on top of there. But if I had a little bit of a leg up, maybe I could. Maybe I have to like drop it on here. No! Come back! No, that's the gold. We're just going to lose all our items. Maybe I just have to come back here. So maybe we have to look for the remote. Let's go and plug the reactor rod in if we can. Bring us power! All praise the nuclear reactor. Power is on. It doesn't look like it's on. Find out anything about Salvner. Dying in places sometimes moves you. So let's see how this goes. Aha! We have moved. Where we've moved to, I can't really tell. Oh, okay. So we can power certain things. Oh, is this the room that's unpowered? Turn that on. It's only 50 odd meters. We're still probably going to drown. Can I take this? And can I take the beacon? And then stand on the beacon on land? Oh, that might be a good idea. Is there anything I can craft? Nothing particularly. What if I recycled the beacon? That'll give me copper and titanium. Are there any more beacons I can steal? I could make like a beacon mountain. This might actually work. Look how tall this is. Oh, whoa. That worked. Then I could do like a running jump. Oh, I could use it over there like I planned originally, right? That beacon, if I know Salvner, it's got to be useful for something. Can I use this to get on top? I could use it maybe to jump that way. No! Oh, please, no! Oh, god damn it. No, don't make me climb it again, please. Maybe I need to place it the other way. Maybe I put it like here. Oh, no, not again. Okay. We need to get up a bit higher. Drop something. No, I was up. Whoa, I'm flying? I've lost the ability to use my legs. I don't feel like this is what Salvner intended, but I think it might work. I feel like this is so gimmicky, it's probably not what he had in mind. Oh, here we go. No. I will get over the top of this base. I will. Come on, we're nearly there. Come on, I can drop something here, right? Jump on it. We're up. Oh my god, we're up. Oh god, we're down. No, we're down. Jump on the table coral. Whoa, what the hell? Oh my god. I don't think this was intentional. Can this help me at all? I definitely wasn't supposed to be out here. Let's go and have a look at the penguins. Can I even get back in? I might be stuck out here now. I might have to reload the save. I can drown myself to get back in, probably, maybe? We're surrounded in pylons. It's like being on a racetrack. I'm really hoping I'll be able to find that table coral again. Because that might be gone. There's a thing. What is the thing? It's silver ore. What do I do with the silver ore? Oh god, I'm gonna get hypothermia. Let me out of the penguin, quick. Can I like drop anything off the sides? What happens if I blow it up? Oh wait, it says penguin 4. Ah, maybe I'm not supposed to get the silver? Maybe it's just telling me that the penguin lock number 4 is silver. Because it says penguin 4 here. And then up there is silver. If I drown, where do I end up? And then I'll probably just reload the save. No launching me into space this time, Table Coral, please. We're up. Okay, quick, run. Go, 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 go. Go, 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 go. We're down. We're up. We're in. There we go. We did it. Was that the way we were supposed to do it? I don't know. Just don't ask any questions. There's the other Table Coral. Okay, we've completed the area. Let's hope we can go and get the other one back now. If we've lost one to gain one, that will kind of put us nowhere. I want to get up there before another storm comes. I get the feeling it might blow the Table Coral away or something, and then we'll be back where we started. It is. It's still there. We got it. We did it. I can't believe that worked. I'm never climbing this staircase ever again. Sayonara. I'm out of here. Goodbye. So titanium was 1, and that was 3. Silver is 2, and that was 4. I need a pen. Let me write this down. It's getting too confusing. A ruby is 1. I haven't found any rubies. So lock 1 is 3. Silver was lock 4, and it was 2. So it starts in 1, it ends in 2. I'm assuming we need a quantum locker, right? The tether tool. So silicon rubber, an ion cube. I think we need that. Maybe I'm supposed to like break down some of the stuff I've got. Where do we go from here? There was something about penguin 3 RU. Wait, unless that's ruby? It says here, ruby 1. Maybe that means penguin 3 is ruby. So maybe it's 312. Was there anything else on these penguins? There was one in that window. So maybe there's one on the window higher up. Penguin 4. But there's nothing here. So that must relate to the silver up the top. Is there anything in there? I swear that says 2. It's kind of hard to read. Maybe penguin 2 and 4 are both 2. Could be 3, 2, 1, 2. There's 4 digits and there's only 3 options on each one. So one number has to come out twice. So I think it's 3 first, then 2, then 1, and 2. Oh ho ho, we did it. Okay, so we've got an ion cube. Yeah, we definitely got to get like the jumper thing. What can I craft? Still nothing. I think I have to deconstruct some stuff. My trusty beacon, you were a dear friend to me, but I think you have to go now. And maybe the penguin remote, computer chip. We needed that. I need silicon rubber. Where am I supposed to find that? Maybe I need the quantum locker. Is there anything else I can deconstruct? I definitely feel like this is what I need. There was silver up there, right? Maybe I needed to somehow get that silver. And that would let me make a wiring kit. Remake the Pengling remote. Thing is, I couldn't see any way to actually get these guys down. Unless maybe I just blow them up. Maybe I should try that. Let's just double check there's nothing up here to do before we do this. There's definitely no way down, right? I'm just gonna blow it up. Bye-bye, penguin. Aha! There it is. Wait, that actually worked? How does blowing something up over there teleport it over here? Can I just blow this one up as well? There we go. Right, I think we have to break down the remote again so we can make a wiring kit. We'll break that. So we need the computer chip, advanced wiring kit. There we go, quantum locker. How do I put this down? I don't think I've ever used one of these. Do I have to open this outside? Here we go. Silicon rubber. I think that was the one material we needed to make the teleporting module thingy. So I think now we have to break down the quantum locker, and then we can then craft the other one. This one, the tether tool. Okay, say goodbye to the base. Okay, we are somewhere else. We are in a very damaged sea truck. It is very dark. Do we maybe have to follow the other sea truck markers? There's 3% power. That is not very much power. Maybe we have to drive to the other sea truck that's over there. Come on, 2% left. There's another sea truck. This one looks in a bit better condition. Does this one got any more power in it? 5. Can I just steal the battery out of there? Even a little bit of power is good power, right? Do we try and get down to there? Oh, we're right on the limit. Oh, no, we'll go up, 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 up. Okay, this might be really dangerous. We're going to keep going. This is going to die, but it gets us further. Oh, it's a module with nothing in it. Pilot teleportation module. We're in. There goes the sea truck. Maybe if I suffocate in here, I'll teleport somewhere. The old Salvna classic. We're in a life pod. Ah, yes. We've teleported again. Look, it's open water. I've never been so happy to see open water. Maybe we just swim for the phase gate. I still feel like there's going to be some kind of hurdle at the last minute. I don't feel like it's done yet, but there's still a sea truck up here. Is this sea truck on the surface? Or is there just a sea truck inside the facility? We're at the facility. Oh, there's another room. What's this room for? It's an empty room. And Empty room Y. That worries me. I thought I was here, but now I'm not so sure. Here we go. I think we might have done it. Get me out of here. There's no way Salvna could have messed with the ending, right? I'm hoping this is it. We finally beat one of Salvna's escape rooms. Maybe I broke something trying to jump out of the map, but did I get to the credits? Yes, I did. Subnautica takes place on an alien planet in the far future. How far in the future? The late 22nd century. So, unfortunately, you're dead. Sorry about that, but hey, look, fish. You crash landed on this alien planet on a ship named the Aurora. You were Riley Robinson. You were the non-essential systems maintenance chief for the Aurora on its mission to build a phase gate for future human colonization of this area of space. This multi-trillion credit investment by the Altera Corporation literally just went down in flames, but luckily the watery world of 4546b was there to extinguish those fires, because you clearly didn't do your job of maintaining those non-essential systems very well. You make your escape from the burning capital ship by boarding Life Pod 5, hurtling down to the planet's surface at breakneck speed. Ooch, a little concussion, but I'm sure a bit of fresh air will help. Being the occupier of Life Pod 5, you're the luckiest man on the planet, or the unluckiest, as every other life pod is either destroyed or its inhabitants are otherwise engaged with the local wildlife, meaning you're the only one still alive who now has to endure this hellscape. While bobbing around in the water and discovering new delicacies for humanity, you start to notice that some of these creatures look rather strange, and it's not just because of the large glowing eyes. Some of these creatures seem to have strange green spots. Why is that? Oh well, I'm sure that won't be a problem. In fact, the green ones seem to have extra flavour. After around a week of living it up in your new aquatic home, racking up quite the bill I might add as your employer claims all of the planet's resources for themselves, a message comes in over the radio. A rescue ship named the Sunbeam is en route to rescue you. All you have to do is meet them at the rendezvous point in a few days. On the day of pickup, you head to the extraction point. It's land. You haven't seen that in a while, but there's also something else here. A big alien thing. Oh well, you've got more important things to worry about. Wait, it's a gun? A giant multi-story alien gun. Well, that's just great. This is the quarantine enforcement platform, and it's what took down the Aurora. I guess you're off the hook for your maintenance failures. Trying to disable the gun, you have the world's nastiest injection, and that's not even the worst part. It says it can't be disabled by someone that's infected. What does it mean, infected? After all this swimming, you're probably in the best shape you've ever been. Maybe those green spotted creatures have something to do with it. Maybe you shouldn't eat any more of those. Well, if rescue is out of the question, maybe it's time to head into the Aurora to see what you can salvage.
Emergency.
Maybe that's best avoided for a little while. The ship's reactor just detonated, and while all that radiation could help you sprout some fins for moving faster, it's probably not a good idea. Heading further down below the waves, you find traces that you might not be the first human to arrive on this planet. It turns out a ship had gone missing over this area before, the Degassi, and the Aurora had a secret mission to discover its fate. The crash had 3 survivors, a father and son duo, Paul and Bart Torgal, and Marguerite Mida, who was employed to protect their ship from pirates. They survived for some time, building bases and heading deeper and deeper below the waves, before their final base was destroyed by a Reaper Leviathan. Paul suffocated after following a light after the base's destruction, with Marguerite stabbing and clinging onto the Reaper that had caused the attack, determined to kill the beast or die trying. Bart made it back to the surface, but later succumbed to a strange infection. Hopefully that's not what you've got. Deep down in the planet's core, you discover the disease research facility. This place has seen better days, and so have you, as it's not just the fish that are green anymore. This disease is called Kara, and was first discovered by the aliens who built this facility and the gun, known as the Architects. Somewhere in space, the Architects found this disease, and it wiped out over 143 billion members of their species. The aliens quarantined their homeworlds and set up remote research facilities to study the disease in hope of finding a cure. 4546b was one of these planets, but something went wrong. The Architects studied all of the planet's life to try and find a solution, and a creature known as a Sea Emperor was their best lead. The Sea Emperors produce enzyme 42, something that could cure the infection. The Architects captured a Sea Emperor and its eggs, designing them a specially made aquarium within the primary containment facility. But either from age, illness, or some unknown reason, the Sea Emperor they captured only produced an unstable version of enzyme 42 that couldn't permanently cure the disease, leading the aliens to focus on its eggs. Try as they might, they couldn't get them to hatch, and in desperation, they turned to a similar creature to try and find a solution. Sea dragons are are very similar to sea emperors, although they are a lot more aggressive. The architects learned this when they tried to take a mother sea dragon's eggs to the disease research facility. Enraged, the mother headbutted the facility, dying in the process but also destroying the research station, causing Kara to escape into the planet's ecosystem, killing off almost all life on the planet. Even the mighty sea emperors died out due to a lack of food. The architects studying the disease broke and fled, some disposing of their bodies and uploading them into the digital world to survive the catastrophe, while others were not so lucky. Only the captured sea emperor and her eggs remained as a source of enzyme 42, and therefore a cure. Making your way to the facility, you meet the sea emperor, who has the ability to speak to you telepathically. That or you're really tripping. The last sea emperor sustains all life in this part of the planet, using her telepathic abilities to train small fish known as peepers to carry her unstable enzyme 42 around the seas. It isn't a permanent cure, but it's kept the world going for the last 1,000 years. The sea emperor tells you that natural ingredients found across the world are needed to hatch her eggs, and after collecting them, her young are finally born, who produce pure enzyme 42, saving yourself and the planet in the process. The mother sea emperor then finally succumbs to old age, her mission complete. So donning a radiation suit, you head inside the Aurora, fix the damaged engine which is causing the radiation, and obtain the plans for an escape rocket sent by a message from Altera. After constructing the rocket, you blast off, leaving 4546b behind.
Permission to land will be granted once you have settled your outstanding balance of 1 trillion credits.
Well, I did say you racked up quite the bill. So I was surfing the web the other day, looking for Subnautica-inspired indie games, and I stumbled across something really quite interesting. I found a post on the Steam forums from a former developer from a shuttered game studio. Now, this wasn't a major outfit, and for the most part was a one-man operation with only occasional help from outside sources. But the really interesting thing about this post is it mentions a game named Farsky, and while that sounds like a game that takes place up in the air or even up in space, you might be surprised to know that it actually takes place entirely underwater. And what's even more intriguing is the developer claims they started working on their game before Subnautica had even progressed past the point of concept art. And even more strangely, members of the Unknown Worlds development team were following him on social media at this time. Now obviously I can't confirm either way if this is true, but at the very least it's interesting to hear about a game with such a similar concept that was being developed at pretty much the same time, or possibly even slightly before Subnautica. The game was never finished, but seemed to take heavy inspiration from games like Minecraft, with you being able to make your own custom bases. Farsky was previously available on Steam, before the studio shut down for good after the failure of numerous other projects, but you can still find the game today on itch.io. So I thought, why not dive into the past and check it out. Mayday, mayday, mayday. My submarine is breaking into pieces. I'm alive. Look at this fish. This is Subnautica 2. Oh my god, the ground is so bright. It's like being flashbanged. Look at how the walls glow. Have you ever seen that on Earth before? These fish look kind of neat though. Whoa, I jumped really high. I'm probably swimming. Is that thing at the bottom of my oxygen bar? There's a chest. Potato. Plant pots. What do I do with this stuff? It's a good job there's a sea base right next to where my submarine crashed. That is very convenient. How do I get in? I've got a minute left of oxygen. I don't mean to panic you, but I would really like to know how to get in. Ah, there's a ladder. Of course there is. So I need to fix the submarine? So I need to find all the pieces, and then she'll send a boat to pick us up once you reach the surface. There's a drill. Hey babe, wake up. New season of Gurren Lagann just dropped. What do I drill with this? What happens if I drill a fish? Why won't you die? I just saw a very big tail fin disappear behind that rock. Dolphins. Hello, my friend. What happens if I drill you? They're so cute. They do look a bit rubbery. What is this? Oh, I'm gonna be rich. Look at all this gold I've got. We're rich. 92 bonus coins. Weapon workshop. Oh, look at this. I'm armed to the teeth now. A spear gun. I'm armed and dangerous, boys. Underwater scooter. There's so many cool things. Hunger, 61%. Wait, does it tick upwards? So when it gets to 100, do I just die? We have all the workshops now. Harpoon cannon. That's what I want. That looks like a very deep trench. Not sure I want to go down there right now. Whoa, look at the giant stingrays. They've even got Kara on top of them, look. Hey, it's the kelp forest. What is this? Is this gold? Imagine if gold formed like this in real life. Night is coming. Predators hunt at night. Uh-oh. I heard a weird noise then, as if there was something behind me. Oh, there is something behind me. Oh my god. Oh my god, I'm getting murdered. Get me out of here. How do I heal? Oh, I clapped him. I turned him into a salmon steak. Oh my god, there's loads of them. Are they baddies? Yes, they are. Oh, okay. Let's get out of here. Run away. Run away. Oh, okay, I'm dead. I've been killed by a barracuda. I need to go and collect all my stuff. Oh no. They ate me so hard I turned into a chest and a cross. I've got no ammo. It's just wiggling. Can I just drill these guys? Don't make me use my one and only spear on you. Oh my god. They're so fast. And so is my ability to turn them into salmon steaks. Oh, I've got you now. Are you hostile? Yes, you are. Okay. You're strong, but you're not that strong. Okay, I'm out of ammo. Retreat. Oh no, I'm dead again. Give me daytime again. There's so many enemies. There's something gold on my radar up there. Oh. You don't see me. This is cool. This is fine. You actually didn't see me. There's something glowing. Alright, I found one piece of the submarine. There's more. There's another submarine piece. What is this? Fix the droid. What is this? What does it do? It's gone into the wall. It's a UFO. Can I stand on it? Ah, no, I go through it. Really high pressure. So I need to get a better diving suit before I go down there. Oh, I'm running out of air again. Get out of the way, shark. That's my house. Oh, I'm drowning. Why do I sound like that? I sound like a villager. Look, my new friend, he's just following me around now. More loot. I love the way they just glow, like looking into the sun. What happens if I just jump down into the deep dark? There's a little depth thing on the side there. I can't go down there. It's too far. The breathing. It's so loud. I think I might be in real trouble here. Swim, goddammit. Oh no, the villager sounds are back. Why does it sound like that? So what happens if we go under our depth? Oh no, something cracked. Oh, my face cracked. Oh, what the hell is that? Oh, this is getting even more creepy because it's cracked. Get me out of here. It's a kraken. What do you mean it's a kraken? I can't see anything. Uh-oh, I've annoyed it. My suit is imploding. All right, so I can make a better diving suit with iron and gold. Can I even get back down there? Oh, you're dolphins. Okay, panic over. I just want to get my stuff and leave. Take all the stuff. Let's go. The cracking effect is really scary. I don't know where I am. So now I'm above the cracking zone. Is my screen just going to be stuck like this forever? My face magically healed itself. What is happening? What is that noise? Is the drone helping me? I have a helmet. My crush step's now down to 250. I'm basically indestructible now. Oh god. Okay, I asked for that. I'm bleeding. It bit me on the arm. This is my blood. I'm just going to attract everything around here now. I'm kind of scared to go out because I'm just going to get wrecked. Oh god. I didn't get 5 meters before I got attacked. Hey, it is shooting it, look. Yeah, it's attacking it. It's helping me. It's too bad its owner doesn't know how to save himself. I'm just casually bleeding all over the place, but don't worry about it. There's another piece here. We're saved. Look, we're in the grassy plateaus if they were actually green. We found 4 pieces. Oh god, what the hell are you? Why do you look like that? Oh! Look at these wrecks. They are kind of creepy. Look at these jellyfish. They're so cool. Do they hurt me? Yes, they do. Oh, get quick scoped. Oh, yeah, eat that. Well, I'm going to die, but I can get another little golden halo first. Time to suffocate again. I forgot the villager noises. What happens if I die before I find my loot? Do I lose it all? Leave me alone, please. I'm innocent. I can't even move, man. All right, we're free. We're good. We're good. We're not good. We're not good. We're still alive. Wait, we're good. We're good. We're not good. Is my other body gone now? I think my stuff might be gone. This is a disaster. Oh, what is this? Oh, it's getting me stuff. That would be useful if I'd put it anywhere near my base. Well, this turned into a bit of a disaster, didn't it? Whoa, there's a bigger base. Oh, it's flooding. Why is it flooding? This would be really dramatic if I wasn't going to bleed to death anyway. Oh, whoa, I'm respawning in a flooded base. Where am I going? Oh, what are you? Oh, gimme, gimme. Did I, like, jump straight to the late game when I jumped down on top of those krakens? Oh, this place is pretty. It made me jump. I maybe pick my mouse up. This would be really cool if I wasn't dying. I'd love to be able to see what's going on. It's like I've become a fly and I just have a million eyes. There it is. Grab it quick. Ah, there we go. 7 out of 9. I just want to escape this zone, please. Just let me leave, please. I'm nearly home now. This is good. I said the quiet part out loud and now I'm gonna get eaten again. Oh my god, there's more in front of me. No, please. I'm so close. I'm so close, please. Let me in. Let me in. Climb the ladder. I can't make anything because I don't have a drill. Where's this piece? There it is. Quick, grab it before we die. 1 more to go. Okay, we should be right on top of it. Here we go. Oh no, we're not on top of it. It's over here. Run, 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 run. We've got it. We've got all 9 pieces. It just appeared. Quick, get in it. We're safe. I'm still taking damage even though I'm inside the submarine. Okay, we're going up. I can't really see anything because the screen's so messed up. Surface in 30 meters. We did it. Doesn't the air feel fantastic? I died 12 times. Oh, buddy, you thought you'd escaped this alien hellhole? Well, guess what? You're back. And this time, hell's frozen over. And don't even think about getting in slowly to save yourself some discomfort because you're going to need to be on top of your game to survive these treacherous seas. This is the story of Subnautica Below Zero. Once again, 4546b is your home for this adventure, but things have been happening before you even arrived. Alterra is back on the planet, and this time in a less of a crashy kind of way, and a more of we actually want to be here this time kind of way. Alterra has returned to the planet to conduct various research projects, and one of these scientists is your sister, Sam Aryu. Sam has been working on something quite interesting, the mechanical avian amphibian, an exploration robot that she wanted to test in a real-world environment. Appealing to Alterra, they take a chance on her and give her a job in Sector 0, an area in 4546b's frozen pole, setting the game's story into motion. Your name is Robin Aryu. You aren't happy that Sam is working for Alterra. You don't trust the company at all. But your sister seems happy. She sends life updates and pictures from Sector 0 talking all about her success. The mechanical avian amphibian now has its very own name. The spy pengling has been born. But not everything is going well. Sam's been using her spy penglings to explore the area, and she's stumbled across something that's filled her with dread. She's found a frozen leviathan in the ice, but Alterra already knew about it and had been studying it in secret. The leviathan's body is covered in bacteria, the deadly virus that caused havoc in the original Subnautica. Sam's worried Alterra could turn this into a biological weapon for profit, and she doesn't know what to do. And that's the final message you ever get from your sister, as the next letter you receive comes from Alterra themselves, simply stating that Sam has died due to an accident caused by her own negligence. These suspicious circumstances cause Robin to set out to 4546b to investigate what happened for herself, and this is where the game begins. Robin arrives in orbit at the same time as a meteor shower, causing her to arrive in Sector 0 with a very bumpy landing. Exploring the planet, you stumble across a strange signal in the deep twisty bridges, leading Robin to a mysterious architect facility that seems to be running out of power. Inside, you discover Alan, a living architect who's downloaded its brain into a digital world. With the power failing, Robin offers her PDA as a new storage facility for the alien's mind. But Alan has other plans. He quite likes the look of your brain. Besides, that PDA hardly has any processing power. Alan is now inside your head and will be a constant source of information and intrigue. Surprisingly, Robin isn't too keen on having an alien inside her head for the rest of her life, so agrees to help Alan find the parts for a new body. As you continue to explore the area, you receive a message. You're trespassing on somebody's land, and they tell you in no uncertain terms to leave. Defying this message, you're ambushed by a crazy woman with a custom prawn suit. This is Marguerite Mida, the sole survivor from Subnautica's Degassi mission, having attacked the Reaper that destroyed the doomed crew's final habitat. She managed to kill the beast, and as it floated to the surface, make its body her home, using its ribcage for shelter, its fat as a fire source, and its meat for nutrition. The creature's body eventually drifted all the way to Sector 0, bringing Marguerite to her new home. She even keeps its skull on her wall. She tells you to stay out of her territory, as she is not on good terms with Alterra. Despite your protests, she either doesn't believe you're not with the company, or thinks you're insane for being here by yourself, neither of which is a good thing when she has a very large claw attached to her arm. To prove your loyalty, she tasks you with disabling Alterra's communication tower on Delta Island, and once you do, she opens up about your sister. Sam had been spying on Marguerite for some time, but only approached her after she became convinced Alterra was going to weaponize the bacteria found in the frozen Leviathan. The pair decided to team up to stop Alterra from getting any further with their Kara research, with Marguerite tasked with destroying the research lab where Alterra stored samples, and Sam with stopping them collecting any more by dealing with the frozen Leviathan itself. Originally, Sam planned to use an antidote to cure the Leviathan, but Marguerite tells her to go big or go home. Sam set explosives to cause a cave-in at the excavation site, but was ultimately killed by falling debris during the explosion. Robin then finishes her sister's work, using the hidden antidote, curing the frozen Leviathan of Kara, denying Alterra any chance to use it for malicious purposes. Disaster now averted, it comes to light that Alan was the one responsible for the outbreak of Kara on 4546b in the ancient past. He was the leader of the research team assigned to find a cure for the disease, and he disobeyed orders and started to experiment on sea dragon eggs, which would ultimately lead to the angry mother destroying the disease research facility and releasing Kara into the ecosystem. Robin's final task is to get this alien out of her head, and after visiting architect caches across Sector 0 and finding blueprints for Alan's new body, heads down to the fabricator base deep in the planet's core. There, a new body for Alan is created, and his consciousness is transferred. He asks if Robin would like her memories of him removed. She declines and asks what he will do next. Alan plans to return to his homeworld to see if there's anyone left, and despite his role in the initial outbreak, Robin offers to help him. Alan leads you to an ancient phase gate, where with some help, he builds a ship for traversing watching the stars. Heading through the gate, the pair arrive at the architect homeworld, where a mysterious fate awaits. An endless ocean in every direction. No food, no water, and no plan. A world drowned and forgotten. Was anyone still out there, or was I truly alone? This is the story of a survivor clinging to a fragile piece of wood, drifting towards answers. Could I survive 100 days lost at sea, or would I sink beneath the waves? On day 1, I awoke in the middle of the ocean on a piece of wood that wouldn't even cover my entire body if I lay down on it. How did I even get here? Maybe I fell off a pirate ship, because Captain Hook had at least left me his hand, which I used to try and grab some nearby resources. This does look a little bit like a fishing hook, but thankfully the giant shark that was circling beneath my feet didn't think so, as getting him on the line would have been enough to sink the entire raft. I spotted an incoming barrel and hooked it in.
Wow, it's very nice.
God barrels were definitely the way to go when it came to getting resources. As I toiled under the midday sun, I spotted that I was drifting towards a nearby island, and I hoped that I'd crash into it, as I didn't have any way of steering. As I got closer, I decided to expand my raft in a hope that a bigger target might make it easier to crash into. And while trying to hook in another barrel, I got a little too confident with my increased raft size and ended up falling off, at which point the shark decided to take a chunk out of my wooden home. But hey, at least it wasn't me. I ended up missing the island as the wind kept pushing me on, and I decided I wouldn't try and swim for it, as I didn't fancy losing my pathetic little home, even if it was now slightly smaller than it was before. Not quite content to give up my dreams of an island home, I made a paddle and started to push myself against the current. I thought the hole in the raft the shark had just made was the perfect paddling spot, although it just ended up with me falling in and getting some new bite marks on my legs. After paddling for a few minutes and watching the island disappear over the horizon, I decided this was a waste of time and to just let the current take me where it wanted. For some bizarre reason, I decided a good use of my limited resources would be to make a calendar so I could see how long I'd survived. I then tried to paddle the shark to death, although I think I just gave it a stroke on the head, which it probably enjoyed. As night fell, I finally remembered that this was a survival game, and my thirst was getting pretty low. I made a cup and filled it with salt water, and then realised I'd need to purify it. I made a makeshift water purifier and loaded it up with fuel. And then, for some reason, I decided the X button for a move actually meant to take the water I'd cooked, whereas no, this actually meant pick up the purifier and lose all my fuel and water purifying progress. I then proceeded to do this until I dehydrated to death, confused and coughing the entire time. Well, that was a little embarrassing, wasn't it? But I wasn't going to accept dying on day 1, so it was time for a brand new world. This time I decided to get a bit brave and jumped straight into the water and started grabbing stuff. But it turns out the shark is also a bit brave and jumped right onto me, so I decided maybe staying on the raft was actually the best policy after all. This time I prioritised water to stop any unfortunate accidents, and actually learned you have to wait for the water to boil before you can drink it. I tried again to crash paddle into an island as I was close to it, but I just ended up going past it as the current was too strong. I also saw another raft off in the distance, but like two ships passing in the night, there was no way I was going to be able to reach it. I then learned I could actually craft rope from leaves instead of having to get it from barrels, and made myself a simple grill. There must have been some leftover food on the grill I made though, as soon as I put it down, the shark decided it wanted a piece of it, although I had opposable thumbs and came out on top. Ape alone okay? With my water problem now sorted, I decided to make a fishing rod to catch some food, although I realised I didn't have any bait, so I thought the rod was useless and gave up. I then remade my calendar as a storm started to blow in, which was actually kinda scary as I didn't exactly have a big raft. I was also getting a bit worried that I was going to starve to death, but luckily some potatoes fished out of a barrel came to the rescue. With my excruciating death by starvation delayed, I crafted a spear to try and fend off the shark that was constantly taking bites out of my home. Day 2 began with just a hint of desperation. I was getting really worried about my food supply, so I decided to try fishing again even though I still didn't have any bait, and it turns out fish are a lot more stupid than you think, as I actually managed to catch one. Shiny metal hook. This looks exactly like what I would eat on a daily basis. I then hooked in this giant chest, which was absolutely loaded, and got to use my home defense system for the first time. I then made a throwable anchor as I wanted to explore the next island I found, and right on time, one came into view. But of course, this time, I actually did crash into it, so I didn't need an anchor at all. I'm not mad about it. I explored the island and found a bountiful harvest of watermelons. I also had to do a really scary jump, but was rewarded with a chest full of booty. Getting down from this pillar was a bit of an issue, but I just bombed off the side and hoped the shark wouldn't open its mouth as I jumped. I then decided it was time to leave, as a storm was blowing in and the waves were getting a bit scary, and I didn't know if them smashing my raft into the shore would break it apart. That night I collected whatever drifted my way and made a sail. I could now steer and had some say over my own destiny, providing I asked the wind nicely and it said yes. The only problem was that the sail did make it a bit harder to see where I was actually going. And as day 3 dawned, I finally used my disposable anchor and stopped at a new island, which seemed like the perfect time for some breakfast as I watched the sunrise. On day 3 I explored the island and discovered pineapples and figured out that if I had an axe I'd be able to cut down these trees. But as I didn't have the resources, I just decided to leave. I then proceeded to get lost at sea for most of the day, as there was just nothing around. It felt like I just sailed off the known world. During this time in the big watery expanse, I made a streamer so I could tell which way the wind was blowing and caught a fish that was too big for me to cook. I expanded the raft and as the sun set, found my way to a large island. Heading ashore, I found a crate which gave me the resources to make an axe, and I started chopping throughout the night, using the wood to make some home improvements. My watery nemesis then broke the one piece of wood holding up my sail, which led to me being blown away from the island, although luckily I managed to craft another one that night. I then decided it would be a good time to invest in a research bench and managed to craft it as the sun rose for day 4. Early in the morning, the largest island I'd ever seen started to come into view, and there was absolutely no way I was going to miss out on this. But after taking a tentative first few steps on its sandy beaches, I was dive bombed by a bird throwing a giant rock. I wasn't too scared at this point, so I kept going, and that's when I got ganked from behind by a giant boar. After losing half my health, I dashed back to the raft and the boar gave chase, and for a moment it looked like it actually got on my raft, and then I was attacked again by another dive bomber, and I couldn't even jump into the water for safety because that's where the shark was. With my health low and enemies at sea, on land and in the air, my only choice was to retreat. I turned my sail and prayed to get out of range of those terrifying dive bombers before it was too late. I managed to dodge the first missile and assumed I was safe. I turned the sail to travel along the shore instead of carrying on out to sea, and this was the fateful mistake. I saw the bird coming and there was nothing I could do, and this time I wasn't fast enough. The dive bomber hit its mark and I fell to my knees incapacitated. Waking up with a very sore head, I realised 2/3 of my inventory was gone. A devastating blow. My avian foes continued to pelt me with rocks as I sailed away, but the damage was already done. My morale was shot. All I could do was try to fish as many resources as I could out of the ocean and put as much distance between me and that island as I possibly could. As night fell, it was one of the longest I had experienced, almost like a night of the soul that would never end, as I was left alone with the thoughts of my failure. But the night is always darkest just before the dawn. And that wasn't long away. At the start of day 5, I discovered a lot of new recipes as I finally figured out how to use the research bench. I decided to try and beeline for the simple collection nets, as I thought their automatic gathering of resources would be really important and really helpful after yesterday's disaster. During my drifting, I noticed a squadron of dive bombers flying overhead and began to panic, but luckily they flew straight on by. I made my first collector net, which caught me a few wooden planks I would have missed, but this small victory was overshadowed by a new threat on the horizon. Another big island was coming into view, and I wasn't sure if this was the scary place I'd just died at or somewhere entirely new. I decided to go in for a closer look, although this time I was a lot more cautious, keeping my eyes on the skies and on the shoreline. As I arrived, I noticed another boar stalking the shore, but I thought I might be able to sneak over and chop a tree without it noticing. Well, it turns out this boar is actually the Hunter Killer 3000 with built-in sensors and infrared cameras, as it came straight for me. Not deterred, I began a game of cat and mouse, running to the tree and getting a few hits before legging it back to my raft when the boar got too close. Eventually I got the tree. Excited with my success, I then sailed around the side of the island and did the same thing, making sure to keep an eye on the hunter killer at all times. That night I made a small grow bed, but it wasn't big enough to grow anything edible, so it was kind of useless. As I drifted through the sea, I fended off another routine shark attack, but this time it was different. After landing a stab, the shark went limp, but I wasn't sure if it was dead or just baiting me to jump into the water to find out. Eventually summoning the courage to dive in, I learned I had actually killed it. I harvested its body and started cooking up its meat. Wearing the head of my once terrifying enemy, I knew the shark's aura of invincibility had been shattered, and nothing would ever be the same again. I basked in this glory as I ate shark meat for the very first time as I watched the sunrise. Day 6 was a rather quiet day compared to the glory of day 5, lingering like a hangover from all the excitement of the night before. I raided a nearby island and somehow dodged getting bitten by a shark when collecting a risky chest, made an improved axe and a medium planter, which I used to plant watermelon seeds. The big breakthrough of day 6 was discovering that I could find resources underwater. I mean, who would have thought of that one? And it turns out they were going to be quite important later on. Day 7 once again started lost and adrift at sea, although the watermelons I'd planted yesterday had started to grow. But my newfound green thumb did attract a new type of pest, that being seagulls that wanted to steal my crops. To defend them, I made a friend. Meet Wilson. He will be my lifelong companion, and doesn't he have the cutest hat you've ever seen? It didn't take Wilson long to start doing his job, but luckily I was on hand to protect him. I then spotted an incoming raft that was almost on a collision course. I decided now was my time to make a break for it, and after some parkour, managed to loot the chest on the top. It also turns out I must be incredibly fat, as my sheer weight was enough to sink the entire raft, and I watched it sink below the waves from the safety of home. Not long later, another raft appeared on horizon, and this contained another friend who I named Jack. I tried desperately to free him as it was my incredible weight that had caused his home to start to sink, but there was nothing I could do.
I'll never let go. I promise.
He just slipped away. As the moon dipped and the sun rose on a new day, I felt a wave of sadness for a friendship that never really got started. Day 8 began with a new island coming into view, and I was grateful as I hadn't seen land for a while, but the respite would only be brief. I stormed ashore and grabbed some fruit, but before long I noticed my raft wasn't properly moored, and I decided it was time to get back aboard before it drifted off without me. Back at sea, I then saw one of the most amazing things yet. Alongside my raft were a pair of turtles. And after staring at them in stunned shock for a moment, my mind immediately turned to the practicalities of the situation. I jumped on them and tried to stab them to see if they'd give me anything useful. They got away. Maybe I should have just appreciated the moment. Later that day, I made a lantern so I could actually see at night and decided to start building up my raft. I wanted an inside section that was an L shape that provided some shelter from the elements, so I started building some of the outer walls with what materials I had and then sank another raft due to my considerable weight. As the sun began to rise for day 9, I was starting to feel confident. I felt like I was making good progress and that my situation more generally was beginning to improve. On day 9, I continued to build my base, saw the scary island with the devil bird circling overhead again and decided I was going nowhere near that and almost died to the shark. I was spending more time in the water as I was trying to get materials to make the smelter, a piece of equipment that would let me cook up more advanced components, but came with the danger of having to get in the water to get them. But it turns out the biggest danger of all was on the surface, as Wilson suffered an injury. Those damn seagulls, I swear I would make them pay for this. In a fit of blind rage, next time a shark attacked my raft, I jumped in headfirst to shake it off, and after one stab, the beast lay dead. Maybe sometimes I just don't know my own strength. Having temporarily defeated the shark, I took the opportunity to swim around in the water and see what I could find, but I ended up getting quite far away from my raft and got scared it was going to drift off without me, so I headed back. I used the night to reorganise my base so it wasn't such a mess, moving items nearer to the back walls and tidying the place up. And that's when it happened.
Well, I'm sorry! I'm sorry!
I just wanted to move him. It wasn't supposed to be like this. Wilson, dead. Not by seagulls, but by my own hand. What cruel twist of fate was this? I scrambled to put him back together again. What was I without Wilson? Under the moon, my friend was reborn, this time with his arm restored, Wilson II. And as the sun rose for the 10th day, I had a new appreciation for my friend. Day 10, 11, and 12 were collecting days. I continued building and trying to find materials on the seafloor. I even fished up this lucky cat, which I named Jess, and put near my stuff. Hopefully it actually would bring me luck. I guess time would tell. I also bopped this seagull that was attacking Wilson II and got some drumsticks out of it. At night on day 10, I crafted my first shark bait as I was sick of getting ganked every time I went in the water, and it turned out quite well. Near the end of day 11, I almost had a disaster. I threw in some shark bait, but the shark went straight for me instead, attacking me twice before I retreated to the raft. I think I threw the bait too far away, so I definitely need to be more more careful in future. On day 12 I decided to make a second sail. The idea was that more sails would make me go more quickly, but it didn't really seem to work and just made seeing where I was going even harder and turning more awkward, as now I had to turn 2 sails instead of 1. Day 13 started like any other, chopping wood, sinking boats and eating melon, but today was the day I would vanquish my fear of my fishy friend forever. After arriving at an island, I decided now was my time to stand and fight. I chased the shark with my spear and killed him, and now I had 3 shark kills to my name and a good window to farm resources from the seafloor. That night I would finally make the smelter and even made a trophy board to display the head of my fallen foe. The creation of the smelter was a game changer, as now I had access to advanced materials. I could start to make much better equipment and electronics. As day 14 began, I had now entered the Age of Fire. Using my newfound flame, I cooked up some seaweed to create vine goo, and this strong goo-like substance allowed me to craft some flippers. Using these was really fun. I finally felt like I was moving at a good speed in the water, instead of doing a slow, half-drowning doggy paddle.
Oh my goodness, you alright?
I used my new speed to gather resources, but when I returned to my raft, I noticed that Wilson II was missing. In response to this heinous crime, I decided it was time to take up arms against the flying threat, and crafted a bow and arrow. I then smelted metal and copper ores, giving me lots of new recipes, but most importantly, copper could be used to craft electronics, even if they were still out of reach for now. At the end of the first day of the Age of Fire, I was feeling strong. Day 15 was a day of upgrades. I made myself an enhanced water purifier that didn't need fuel to produce clean water. This was a great improvement, as it didn't waste my precious wooden planks that I needed for virtually everything else on my raft, from powering the smelter to making the very walls and floors. I then crafted a big grill and threw some shark steaks on the barbie, and relaxed by taking a swig from my new water bottle. This, alongside my new water purifier, made dehydration a thing of the past. Days 16 and 17 were relatively quiet. I farmed for resources and killed the shark, and I did finally research the circuit board, which opened the door to actually making electronic equipment. Day 18 began with something majestic. While fishing junk out of the sea, I crossed paths with a whale. Our meeting was only brief, but I took this chance encounter as a sign that I was on the right course, and that my destiny lay upon the open sea. While this encounter was magical, the sight of this whale also filled me with fear. I didn't realise that creatures in this game got this big, and it sent my imagination wild, wondering what else could be out there, and those creatures might not be as friendly as Mr. Whale. I then entered the electronic age by crafting an antenna and receiver to try and pick up radio signals, which would give me a path to follow rather than just aimlessly wandering. Although to start with, I couldn't really understand how it worked. I think I needed more antennas. The last major milestone of day 18 was getting a proper anchor. No longer did I have to fill a bucket full of rocks and chuck it over the side to stop, as now I had a permanent solution. By day 19, I was getting really sick of running out of wood, so I decided it was time to stop caring about what the raft looked like and to turn my wooden abode into the ultimate farming machine. I planted a palm tree on my upper level, which made the place look ridiculous, but it was efficient. I then noticed a big island and went in for a closer look. Spying the circling devil bird, I decided to hang back and gear up before I did anything stupid. I crafted more arrows and decided to wait until morning before venturing ashore, as I wanted to have as much daylight as possible to reduce my chance of death. As I watched the island throughout the night, my mind grew restless at what I might find the next day. What I wouldn't give to have had a friend in this dire moment. And then, like an angel in the night, Wilson returned to me.
Do not be afraid.
Wilson, you have a voice?
Yes, can you not see my lips moving?
No, I can't.
Shut up, that's not important. I have faith in you. You must venture onto the island and face any danger you may encounter. It is your destiny.
Well, that's easy for you to say, isn't it, Wilson III? Every time you die, you reappear at a random moment that's convenient for the story.
I must rest now. Don't ask me any more questions. People would think you're weird for talking to your scarecrow, and you wouldn't want that, would you?
No, I guess not. After my pep talk, I went ashore and heard something I wasn't expecting. Random, chill music, as if I was in some nice beach resort somewhere and not on Murder Island. Although I shouldn't speak too soon, as guarding this mysterious hut was another hunter-killer boar. Using my new bow, I retreated to the shoreline and filled him with holes. This was sweet, sweet revenge for all the times they'd hunted me in the past. I returned to the strange hut and discovered it was a trading post, offering items and recipes for a strange currency that I didn't have. I then decided to try and explore the rest of the island. With the boar dead, I could move more freely, but the biggest threat was still alive. I climbed up the mountain to try and get a better shot at my nemesis, all while getting bombarded by rocks. Now, hitting this demon was actually a lot harder than it looks, as you need to account for arrow drop-off and the bird never stops moving. Getting knocked down to half health, I noticed I only had a few arrows remaining and decided it wasn't worth the risk and retreated to my raft. After healing up and making more arrows, I noticed that nighttime was actually quite bright, so feeling brave, I ventured back ashore sure to try again. After a long drawn out fight which lasted most of the night, I ended up running out of arrows and tried to chase the bird with my spear, although that turned out to be a complete waste of time. So I grabbed the loot at the top of the mountain and went home, and as the sun rose, my foe still remained alive. On day 21, I briefly returned to the island to grab some wood, and then decided to leave as I had no feathers to make any more arrows, and chasing the bird around seemed to be a bit pointless. Back out at sea, I made a bird's nest to encourage birds to rest on my raft. This was useful as they would drop feathers I could use for arrows, although it did feel like a betrayal of Wilson, as I was inviting his mortal foes on board. I then made more antennas, as 3 were needed to get the receiver working so I could hear radio signals. This was really frustrating, as the antennas can't be too close together and I couldn't find a way to get them far enough apart without them getting too close to each other. On day 22, I finally got the receiver working and started moving in the direction of the signal. I wasn't sure what I would find when I got there, but anything was better than aimlessly drifting. I then found that I had a journal, apparently. It only took me 22 days to find it, but better late than never, I suppose. It turns out that I was some kind of scout in a flooded world. What disaster had befallen this place? I would have to follow the radio signals to find out. As I continued on my journey, I made my home into the ultimate farm, planting 3 trees and making lots of birds' nests. It was ugly, but I needed the resources more than I needed comfort. On day 23, my destination finally started to come into view. Towering out of the water was a giant platform. Just what was I about to walk into? Part of the platform was flooded, which suggested that maybe the ocean was rising. On board, I found a number of notes which gave clues as to what was going on. It spoke of a team of 3 people who found this radio tower, who all had code names: Cuckoo, Owl and Sparrow. They were trying to reach a place named Selene, but whoever was there was no longer responding. This mysterious location appears to have some kind of reactor to fight back against the endless ocean. The note says that the other facilities are underwater, which, as I thought before, suggests that the sea level is rising. After a few weeks, Sparrow seemingly betrayed the others and took their boat, but Cuckoo hopes that this was for a reason, while Owl thinks this was just betrayal. Finally, Owl's radio notes speak of various distress signals, and of gunshots possibly coming from a place known as Tangora City, and that Sparrow may have actually made it to Selene. I didn't know what to make of any of this, but the world just got a whole lot bigger. As I climbed to the top of the radio tower, I encountered something I was not expecting. Another person? She didn't really tell me much about why she was here, and then she turned into a column of light, but she seems to just be a new playable character. I then found a final note that gave me coordinates that simply said people. On day 24, while on the way to the coordinates, I noticed I was approaching a different radio signal, so I diverted to go and check it out. Under cover of darkness, I explored the island and found these weird running bird things. And as the sun rose while I was still on the island, I knew that day 25 was going to be a day of violence. To begin, I took out the much easier to deal with boar. These guys were kind of a joke now compared to the terror that was the birds, but I still needed to be careful not to be snuck up on by one. I had my usual cat and mouse fight with a bird, but as usual, after getting low, I had to retreat to the water to try and give myself some cover from its relentless attacks. One even hit me as I was entering the water, meaning if I got hit again, I was done for. After hiding for a while and regaining health, I continued the hunt, but as was becoming a trend with these birds, the fight was not worth the risk. I continued to fight the bird throughout the night, but once again decided it was time to leave to resume my journey to the mysterious coordinates. On day 26, I noticed that while I was on the island, Wilson III had succumbed to the same fate as his forebears, but I wasn't too concerned. I had a feeling he'd be back when I needed him. Finally making my way to the coordinates I found at the radio tower, I started to notice a large yacht coming into view. Was this place abandoned, or did someone live here? Making my way up the front of the boat, I immediately knew that something wasn't right. Looking through the ship's large windows, it seemed to be abandoned, and every door I tried was locked up tight. Heading around the back, I found an empty swimming pool containing a mechanical part. I wasn't sure what this would be used for, but I hoped it might be for an engine. I found an entrance and made my way into a large room, and to relieve some of the tension from the ship's creepy atmosphere, I lightened the place up a bit. Inside this room, I found a strange note, which said half the ship's provisions had been eaten by rats, but most worryingly, it also said that the shortage of food meant that some of the members of the crew would have to be terminated, and as this note was found next to some bullets, I think I know what they meant. Knowing the doors were locked, I tried to climb the shelves behind the bar, and immediately got jump scared. Making my way to the end of the boat, I found an area for authorised personnel only, so I authorised myself and went on in. The fading of the sun behind me as I entered the belly of the beast did not help my sense of unease. There was an oppressive feeling in the air, air, and it was not helped by the game's horrible ambient soundtrack. I couldn't see more than a couple of feet in front of my face, and I was getting serious amnesia vibes. Making my way forward, I found a circuit breaker which illuminated another note. This one said they were heading for a high-rise down south, so maybe there's a skyscraper sticking out of the water somewhere. The note also mentioned that a city had been a failure. Could this have been the Tangaroa city that was mentioned at the radio tower? Disturbed from my thoughts, I heard some terrifying noises coming through the wall. Just what on earth was waiting on the other side? Against my best judgment, I grabbed a nearby crowbar and pried open the door, and I almost immediately found myself in a fight with the most ugly rat I have ever seen. Luckily, he wasn't too tough, and I took him down with my spear. Maybe this was actually a blessing in disguise, as to celebrate my victory and alleviate my imminent starvation, I ate this rat raw in the corridor. Yikes, what being stuck at sea does to a man. Exploring the room this mischievous critter had been guarding, I then found some cooked food. Not to look a gift horse in the mouth, I ate that too, although I did still have raw rat stuck in my teeth. Continuing to explore the ship, I unlocked a door with a red key, but before heading inside, I decided maybe it was time to head home and dump some of the stuff I'd found. As I made my way out of the ship, the sun was starting to rise. It felt like I'd successfully navigated the beast's lair, at least for now. Heading back inside the ship, I was no longer afraid. The sounds these rats made were definitely worse than the damage they actually dealt. I searched through the ship for much of the day and night, finding useful scrap and picking up notes. It seems Olaf, the captain of the ship, decided he wanted to tame these rats and use them in some kind of army. He named them lurkers and used them against the crew of the ship, who he feared was turning against him. In the chaos, the yacht then ran aground, with the crew attempting to flee for their lives in the lifeboats. Whether they survived, I'm not quite sure, but I didn't notice any lifeboats attached to the ship when I arrived. Throughout the night, it got really dark, and it was so hard to see, but taking it slow and steady, I eventually made my way through the ship. The final door I found said it needed a bomb to open, and I definitely didn't have that kind of firepower. As day 28 began, I was still on the boat. I decided to head back down into the ship's hold, as there seemed to be some kind of crafting table there. This let me craft the bomb I needed, and got me a car jack, which I could use to open a door blocked by a crate. Entering the room, I found another note about Olaf. It turns out he was a general, and was a pioneer behind the idea of floating cities. From this little extract, we also discover that Stockholm has disappeared below the waves, a victim of the ever-rising oceans. I then ventured upstairs and planted the bomb. After shaking the boat's very core, I entered the bridge, discovering blueprints for how to make an engine and a wheel. This would be a game changer in my ability to cross the seas. I also found my next target, Balboa. For the rest of the day, I gathered what resources I could from the area outside the yacht and headed off. I managed to craft the steering wheel, but didn't have enough for the engine. I didn't think the wheel would work without the engine, but bizarrely, it did. Oh well, don't question it. Maybe I'm moving the sail? Day 29 was a day of me and the open sea. I spent most of the day adrift in the ocean with nothing in sight, but just before the sunset, I noticed an incoming island, and it was a large one. It had a massive cliff, which I definitely hadn't seen before, but my dreams of exploring this island were just that, dreams. As because the wind was against me, I couldn't get close enough to jump off and explore. I dropped anchor and literally spent the entire night waiting for the wind to change. On day 30, after wasting half the day, I decided the wind wasn't going to change and it was time to leave. This was actually really annoying, as I just sat around wasting time. I set off to try and find another island, and luckily another wasn't too far away. Now, while the island itself is cool, the thing I was looking for was actually beneath the waves. I was looking for metal so I could finally craft that engine and stop being so dependent on the wind, which had just proven itself to be an unreliable partner. Swimming around the island turned out to be a dangerous task, as I almost drowned and was almost eaten by the shark while gathering resources. Maybe my overconfidence was starting to become a problem. Day 31 finally brought the change I was looking for. After some undersea exploration, I finally managed to smelt the metal bars I needed to craft the engine, and oh my god, was this a good feeling. The engine ran off wooden planks, and with my raft looking like a substitute for the Amazon rainforest, I was set. I cruised through the day and night, not caring what Mr. Wind had to say about it. I even took down my sail, as I thought it might be slowing me down. This was one of the best days I'd had in a long time. I felt like the king of the world. On day 32, I finally made it back to the giant island that the wind pushed me away from a few days before. I tried to turn my raft in between the steep cliffs, but it was too large and I had to swim my way in. It turns out this was actually the place I was supposed to be going for my next objective. I didn't realise that at the time, I just thought it'd be a pit stop on the way. On arrival, I noticed the very concerning "Watch out for bears" sign, so I was already on edge. I headed further inland and came face to face with one of those dreaded beasts, but luckily it didn't see me, so I changed direction pretty quick. Travelling across the island, I came up to a drawbridge on top of the mountain that I could only drop from the other side, and as it was night time and I was low on arrows, I decided to head home and gear up before I ran into something that was going to murder me. The next morning, I headed back ashore, nervous about the fight I knew was coming. I ran up the hill and everything was quiet. I swear I saw a bear here yesterday. Regaining my composure, I kited back down the hill, filling the bear with arrows, arrows. Surprisingly, these guys seem to hit less hard than the boars and the birds I'd met before, something I wasn't expecting. After half a dozen arrows, the beast finally fell. I guess the bears weren't as scary as I thought. A little further up the hill, I ran into another bear who went down just as easily. As I continued exploring, I found someone called Henry's stuff. I was going to steal it, but it seemed to be glued to the floor. Damn. Continuing my climb, I came across a place that looked really inviting. Inside, I found a strange toxic dump filled with poison, and for some reason, against my better judgment, I just went for it. Surprisingly, I made it, and stumbled across a strange radio tower. Before exploring the tower, I investigated a nearby house, which gave me the blueprint for the biofuel refiner. Climbing up to the ranger station, I found that I needed to flick a switch at each of the 3 towers on the island. I assumed this would give me the coordinates to my next location, so I set out on my task. It seems whoever was inhabiting this island was tasked with keeping the towers online, although once their shift ended, no new staff came to replace them. It appears there was 2 of them on the island, Bruno and Astrid, a brother and sister, but one day Astrid disappeared. As I continued to explore, I almost fell off a cliff trying to avoid the toxic swamp. I still don't know how I didn't die. Eventually, I came across my next ranger station that was stuck across a ravine. This was the place I discovered the other night when staggering around in the dark. There was a bridge across, but the switch was on the other side of the cavern. I decided to try and shoot it with an arrow just to see what happened, and was almost immediately crushed by the bridge falling on my head. Honestly, I wasn't expecting this to work, so I was pleasantly surprised when it did. I flicked the switch on the antenna and looked at the map I'd found. I'd previously been up to the tallest station on the island, but found my path blocked by a thick curtain of vines. I assumed I needed another tool, so I hoped that the ominous skull on the map might point me to where I needed to go. On days 34 and 35, I continued to explore the island. I even killed this little goat thing, which seemed to be just as tough as the bears, although it didn't end up actually giving me anything apart from a guilty conscience. As I continued around the island, I found these creepy notes talking about murder. Just who had been killing who, I'm not quite sure, but it definitely put me on edge. I explored and ran into a large bear. I didn't realise it at the time, but this was actually a super strong mother bear, and after I ran out of arrows and tried to hit her with my axe, I was promptly mauled to death. Well, there goes all my stuff again. On days 36, 37 and 38, I left the island behind and went farming, as I had no stuff. Although I did end up crafting tools I didn't bother to before, getting binoculars and a pair of shears. On day 39, I found an interesting island. This place contained bees and honeycomb. I didn't have enough vine goo to make a net to catch the bees, but the honeycomb was a nice reward nonetheless. This would allow me to make a small amount of good healing salve, allowing me to regenerate some health in fights. I also unexpectedly found a bear on the island. I mean, what was it eating? As I had no arrows, I decided to take this guy on with my spear. It went surprisingly well. I also tried to shear this little goat thing, but that didn't work. I really wanted to use a collection net to take the creature with me, but while I had crafted the launcher, I still hadn't discovered the recipe for its ammo. On day 40, I decided it was time to once again turn my attention to the raft itself. The place was looking rather shabby, and I kept losing bits of it to the shark. That's when I discovered that not only was there a nicer looking wood I could make my foundations out of, but there was armor I could attach to it as well. So I started sprucing the place up and reinforcing the parts most at risk of attack, that being the engine. Into day 41, the work continued, and I managed to get most of the raft reinforced. Jack, thank goodness you're safe. How did you survive? And you got a new boat? Don't worry, this time I'll save you. No, Jack, not again. Please, please. Oh god, my raft is getting far away. Swim, swim. Later that day, I found an island with nothing particularly interesting on it, although it did inspire me on the dawn of day 43 to finally make a recycler, as it had a trading post. Recycling items would make trash cubes, which I could then use at the trading post to buy useful items. I threw a lot of resources into this thing, and even then it didn't give me a cube. I guess that I probably needed a battery to power the recycler some more, but I didn't have the resources right now, so I just chucked a load of useful items in here for nothing. On day 44, I finally got my first junk cube, although I didn't have anything to spend it on. I then made this giant cooking pot, which I could use to make high quality meals out of basic ingredients. While I was playing with my new toy, on the horizon I saw the tallest island I had ever seen, so I decided I'd better go and check it out. While swimming around the island, I found a poison pufferfish, and while it didn't injure me, it did explode and leave a giant toxic cloud. Me being impatient and wondering if it dropped any loot, I promptly edged into this cloud and got poisoned, but luckily I didn't die. I then managed to find another one of these creatures not long later, and somehow managed to kill it by shooting at it with my bow underwater. How that worked, I'm not quite sure, but I was just happy to get the creature's explosive goo. I also found these jellyfish. Nice. Day 45 began as I continued to swim around the island. I farmed up some more fish and returned to the raft, where I cooked up the explosive goo. I really questioned if that was a good idea, but it seemed to work, as it gave me explosive powder. This finally let me craft ammo for my net launcher, so I could try and catch the next friendly mob I saw. I also made a a ton of arrows for my climb to the top of the island tomorrow, as there was a devil bird up there and this time I was determined to kill it. The next day, feeling fresh, I began my climb up the mountain. The bird started to circle overhead and I let off my first arrow. Miss. Undeterred, I continued my charge, but as I climbed, my worst nightmare came to pass. Not only was I now fighting with the bird, but I was simultaneously fighting a boar. The boar on its own wasn't a problem, but my split focus between the two was a recipe for disaster. I kited backwards while trying to focus down the boar. I managed to get a few arrows off, but got myself charged in the process. It wasn't a huge amount of damage on its own, but my fight with the bird was already going to come down to the wire, and I needed all the health I could get. Luckily, I managed to take out the boar, but while trying to get my arrows back, I ended up taking a hit from the bird. A big mistake. Another couple of hits like that, and I was done for. I grabbed my arrows and tried to make it to higher ground. I wanted to make the bird fly up towards me rather than circling above my head, as it was much easier to shoot down than it was up. Climbing yet further, a little goat almost got itself no-scoped when it took me by surprise, but I was just thankful it wasn't another boar. There was even one of those little friendly cluckers running around, which was another distraction. The bird continued to circle, but I managed to get in some good hits. And then, it happened. The bird went down like something out of an action movie, slamming into the ground and off the edge of the cliff. As I watched it fall, my heart continued to pound. I couldn't believe I'd finally done it. After all the pain these birds had caused me, they were no longer invincible. I climbed down the mountain and found the body. I even stabbed it a few times just to make sure he wasn't getting back up, but the beast was dead. To celebrate, I wore the head of my nemesis, and damn did I feel good doing it. Back further up the mountain, I caught my first pet, the goat that almost got filled full of holes during the fight. I named her Libra after the Night Rain boss, as I knew how tough these goats were. I took Libra home, and to celebrate the victory and the rising sun, I got milk for the very first time. On day 47, I trekked back up the mountain to see if the trading post there had anything useful. I grabbed some bait, as I'd never used that before, and I was hoping to get me some stuff I could sell, as all the items I could sell in the store were fish. I also caught that clucker that was running around and took it back to my raft. I named her T-Rex, as she was very scary. Later that day, I used my bait and pulled up some exotic fish, which I hoped one day I'd be able to sell. Days 48 and 49 were quiet. I spent most of my time drifting, farming, and generally keeping myself alive, something I decided I didn't want to do anymore at the start of day 50, as I ventured onto an island without a spear or any arrows, and promptly ran into a boar.
I've got you in my sights.
I ran for my life and luckily got away. I spent the rest of the day, and the one that followed, hanging around the island and trying to level up my trading reputation. This would allow me to buy new and better items. I used my trash cubes to buy bait, which I then used to catch special fish, which I then sold back to the trading post. I would have reached reputation level 2, but then the trading post ran out of bait to sell, probably to stop people doing exactly what I was doing at this very moment. On day 52, I left the island. I wanted to try and find a creature that would give me some wool, as that would allow me to create armor and a backpack, both of which would be really useful. On day 53, I found another island and got my trading reputation up to tier 2. I then noticed the next level was going to cost 3,000 reputation, and I almost gave up. I grabbed a small amount of bait just to see how much the new fish were worth. The old ones were still only worth 10, but the new ones were worth 100, so it wasn't a completely impossible task. I bought out the shop's supply of bait and got about 2/3 of the way to level 3. Not bad. I really wanted that titanium in the level 3 shop, so hopefully it would be worth it when I finally got there. Day 54 was quiet. I decided to explore the rest of the island before I left, but I didn't bother killing the bird. I'd already made my point, and the loot they dropped really wasn't worth the risk of getting killed. I just climbed the mountain, grabbed what I needed, and bugged out. On day 55, I gathered as much metal as I could. For this day, my raft turned into an archer's paradise. I crafted as many arrows as I could, because I was about to return to Balboa, and the mother bear that had so thoroughly kicked my ass. Travelling through the night and much of the next day, on day 56, I finally saw the dreaded isle come into view. I decided this time I would approach the island from the other direction, pulling up at a small cove I found previously. My old route involved a lot of swimming, and this just seemed like the better option. As the night drew in, so did my sense of foreboding. Could I really kill Mama Bear? And even if I did, what lay beyond her?
You must conquer your fear.
But Wilson, I don't know how.
What we do in life echoes in eternity. Hold the line and stay with me.
But you're staying on the boat, and aren't you just quoting Gladiator now?
Wilson IV will be with you, always.
God damn it. Stepping onto the island, I quickly found myself at Mother Bear's rest place. But unlike last time, this time I came locked and loaded. With over 70 arrows at my disposal, Mother Bear didn't last long, although she did get in a nasty hit that almost took away half my health bar. Luckily, it seems bears can be outsmarted by weaving behind large berry collectors, and once she started bouncing back and forth, her fate was sealed. This bear was so large, she even had her own gravitational field. Just look at those arrows. Inside her den, I found the machete I'd need to get up to the final relay tower, and after hacking my way through and climbing the steps, I found this guy, who once again turned into a column of light. Damn man, I hope that isn't contagious. After flipping the final switch, I had the coordinates for my next location, but I wasn't quite done with Balboa just yet. While moving across the island, I had found Bruno's wrench, which I needed to build something back at the ranger station, so I started heading over there to have a look. On the way, I found my wool factory, but I didn't have my net, so I headed back. On day 58, using the wrench, I found the final note on Balboa Island. This nice, lovely sunset picture. I also caught some bees for the first time, with an expert jumping swing if I must say so myself. And then I caught my wool factory. Damn it. After missing, I went back to my raft and crafted another net. This time I tried to sneak up on my prey. I don't think this made any difference whatsoever, but I did get him this time. I took my new wool factory back to my raft and I named him Wooly. Wait, that says Wally. You know what? After that miss, it's probably a fitting name. As the sun rose, I then researched wool, which would finally let me craft some armor and a backpack. Once Wally had done his job enough times, that is. I also researched the beehive, which would let me get more honey, which I needed to craft healing items. Fun fact, I never actually got the beehive made, so I never had a steady supply of healing items. On day 59, I began plotting my new course. It was going to be a long trip, so I might as well get started. This was the day I finally got sick of looking at my raft and began a redesign. I didn't necessarily want to remove any functionality, but this place could definitely look better. I started by building some new walls and creating some doors. Man, this place was looking better already. At the top, I wanted to put down some little fences, but my radio antenna were blocking some of the placements. This was a bit of an issue, as getting these in good positions in the first place was a bit of a nightmare, and it wasn't something I wanted to mess with too much. For now, I just decided to build around them. On day 60, I stumbled across a strange looking island. I must have ventured far on my travels, as I'd never seen anything that looked like this. I headed ashore and found a sun-baked land, but even here there was a trading post. As I continued to explore, I got ganked by not just one, but two large pigs. I managed to take them both out with my spear, but I don't know if these things were carrying some kind of disease, as this does not look healthy. As the day ended and the sun rose for day 61, I finally hit the max rank at the trading post, letting me trade for the top tier items. Now I just needed some trash cubes, as I'd spent them all buying the bait to level up. I spent the day travelling to my latest set of coordinates, and in the dead of night, I finally arrived at a mysterious shantytown hugging the cliffs poking out of the sea. Before even setting foot on the island, I was already under attack. The classic dive bomber assault had begun, but I didn't even have a bow to hand, so after crafting one under fire, I finally got a chance to respond. I decided to fight on the raft, as it gave me a good amount of cover, although I had no idea if the rocks being dropped were doing any damage to my wooden roof. After a few arrows, the bird went down. I was actually surprised, as it normally takes way more, but it turns out this was a different variant of the bird, and apparently a weaker one. Heading ashore, I was greeted by the ruins of a dilapidated town made of caravans. There was something distinctly eerie about this place. Whatever happened here didn't seem to be the result of the rising seas, and looked like the result of a raid or a civil war on the island. I continued to explore over the next few days, and I eventually discovered an oxygen pipe that descended deep into the ocean. Crafting an oxygen bottle, I headed down, fighting pufferfish and regaining my breath in trapped air bubbles. At the bottom of the pit, I found a blueprint for a metal detector and crafted it. I also found my first zipline part, which I would need to traverse the harder to reach areas of the town. On days 65 and 66, I dug up a hidden safe and got access to titanium for the first time. I also launched my very own rocket and found Major Tom alongside another zipline part. I found my final part by turning pipes and allowing the water to fill up this well. After creating the zipline, I headed over to the mayor's house, which gave me the blueprint for the battery charger, so I finally had a use for all the dead batteries I'd been hoarding. On day 67, I ventured to the other side of the island, which contained the infirmary. After taking out its piggy guards, I made my way inside and found a note. The note shed new light on what happened here. It seems everything started to go to hell when our friend Captain Olaf turned up. It seems whatever disease he'd found in the rats on the yacht had now made its way into the island's pigs, and the mayor didn't think this was a coincidence. It seems wherever Olaf goes, he leaves a trail of destruction in his wake. Back in the mayor's house, I found a note that pointed to my next location, Tangaroa City. On day 68, I began my journey to Tangaroa, but on the way, I'd become seriously annoyed about the lack of space on my raft. Since reinforcing the hull, all shark attacks had stopped, which on the one hand was nice, but on the other, that was a big source of food that I was no longer getting. I'd become quite used to fine dining on shark meat, and I wasn't planting any crops because the place was just so cramped. All of these things together meant I had a serious hunger problem, so I decided it was time to expand and start farming again. I started by increasing the size of my foundation, but that meant the shark was now free to attack me again. I wanted to increase the raft size to 10 by 10, whereas before it had been 8 by 8. I felt like that extra space would come in really handy in my fight against the elements. I continued like this into day 69, although all these foundations meant I'd run low on wood and plastic. Once the battery died in the transmitter, I no longer knew which direction direction I was going in, and as I only had limited wood, I used the engine sparingly. I was back on wind power, and towards the end of the day, I was excited to see a big island come into view, only to realise this was Caravan Town. I'd ended up back where I'd started. I eventually found the materials to craft a new battery and set off once again, hopefully this time with greater success. On day 70, something big started to come into view. I don't know what I'd expected to see when I arrived at Tangaroa, but this certainly wasn't it. Floating on the ocean like a giant snow globe, Tangaroa City left me in awe. Up to this point, I thought I'd eked out a relatively civilized existence upon the waves, especially compared to some of the other things I'd seen previously, but pulling up my tiny raft next to this behemoth was like trying to board an aircraft carrier with a rubber dinghy. I followed the arrows along the dome's side and found myself approaching some kind of loading bay. Not to look a gift horse in the mouth, I quickly drove straight in. Entering the bows of the vessel, my sense of civilization was immediately dampened. Cockroaches. Well, I suppose the city could still be fine, even if there was some unwelcome stowaways. The inside of the city was cold and dark. Like the yacht that had come before, I could hardly see 5 foot in front of my face. I had a headlamp on board the raft somewhere and I kicked myself for not bringing it. As I stumbled around in the dark, I was yet again set upon by the giant lurkers I'd seen before. Here there seemed to be 2 types, the normal big ugly ones and the even bigger and even uglier ones which were even tougher. Searching the lower levels, I ended up finding the parts to restore the broken generator, allowing me to move shipping containers in the ship's hold to try and clear a path forward. This took me a while, so long in fact I was starting to get worried of starving or dehydrating to death whilst on board. After finally clearing a path, I reached a ladder to move up to the next level, only to be hit by a torrent of water. Completely disorientated, the area which I was in began to flood. Moving between air pockets, I desperately tried to find a way back to my raft, as I knew as soon as my hunger or thirst hit a critical level, the speed debuff that would bring would mean I'd be doomed. Turning around in the dark, I was hopelessly lost, stuck between winding pathways and locked doors. I thought I was done for, but just before the thirst began to take me, I managed to stumble back into the light as the sun rose for day 72. I'd been stuck down there for a full 36 hours. Before heading back inside, I made sure to stock up on food and water. I didn't want to come back here if I could help it, as the journey back was so long. Heading back inside, I managed to find my way into the city's food growing area, although there was now a minor electrical issue going on. After hopping, skipping and jumping my way through, I found my way to the surface. Now this was a city, and I had a feeling I was going to get lost in here. Not long after making it to the surface, I ran into Sparky here. It turns out that Olaf and a new crew of rafters had turned up to Tangaroa, but the city's leadership wasn't too keen on letting them in. The city's security opened fire on the rafters, but this caused riots on the city's streets, as some didn't agree with the policy. But they should have done, as once the rafters made it on board, they added electric shockers to the city's robotic butlers, taking control of the town, and now they wanted to help me out and shock me in the process. Day 73 began as I continued to explore the city. I was doing well for food and water, but I was getting concerned about the health of my weapons. They were low, and I didn't have the resources on me to replace them. This wasn't something I thought of when preparing to come on board. I continued to crawl my way through the city. This was definitely the rich person's playground, as these rooms were fancy. After running out of useful weapons, I decided to retreat to the raft to resupply. After finding enough duct tape throughout the city, I finally managed to stop the electrical surges in the city's farming area. This then let me get into the elevator in this area and access a previously unreachable building. After finding the aftermath of what looked like a great birthday party, I finally ziplined across to the city's main tower. Searching inside, I found a note, and after venturing down onto the street to try and decipher the code for the door, my journey inside Tangaroa came to an end. Not because I was completely done, but because the final part of Tangaroa I'd yet to explore had just left the part of the city I'd already explored. I just hoped that thing hadn't hit my raft, otherwise I was in big trouble. Making my way to the crash site, I jumped in through a hole in the roof. Inside, I found the final note of the captain of the city, who was fated to die along with the other rich guests who used to rule the world. But this wasn't a dead end, as I also found a note which gave me yet another set of coordinates, this time leading me to a place named Varuna. I spent the rest of the day travelling, and I also made a few bits of armour. I still didn't have enough for a full set, but a helmet and body armour was better than nothing. Day 76 was spent travelling and farming, preparing myself for whatever I may face at my next location. As the sun rose for day 77, I found myself pulling up next to a giant crane. It looks like this had been used to build a skyscraper before the world went to hell, and it really just shows how high the water level had now risen. Climbing up the side of the crane, I used birds' nests to help me gain entrance. I was just thankful the birds that lived in them didn't seem to be around to bombard me. Climbing up the crane, I found multiple unlocked toilets, but for some reason I couldn't go in them. I also found out that this was the home of someone called The Grabber, and he liked to steal people's stuff. That's a little bit weird. I tried to activate the crane and drop the rocks it was holding to smash a hole in the building below, but I needed a key. Travelling down the biggest zipline I'd seen so far, I headed over to the other building. There wasn't much here, but there was an open toilet. I thankfully took the break. I then decided I'd try swimming between the two buildings and was greeted by the most beautiful sight I'd seen so far. This underwater paradise was littered with air pockets and pretty fish, although I was having trouble appreciating it while trying not to drown. After swimming around for a while, I decided to head home and craft an oxygen bottle so I could go longer without needing to rest. Heading back down, I discovered that the spotlights moved the jellyfish blocking my path, so I needed to repair another one further down. Diving into the ruins, I came across a new foe, an anglerfish. To be honest, these weren't too scary as they didn't do that much damage, but maybe that's just because my new armor was paying off. After finding 4 parts and repairing the spotlight, I descended down further. This underwater hideaway appeared to be the grabber's lair, and my god had this guy fortified it. Acting like a madman from The Walking Dead, he'd covered the walls and floors in spikes and tripwires. I tried to bait out triggering one of these, but the trap came down so quick it just hit me in the face. I wouldn't be doing that again. Inside his home, I found Miranda. I think Wilson had said something about this being his girlfriend, but I couldn't bring her back with me. I couldn't have anyone else competing for Wilson's attention. I also found the motherlode key, where the grabber had lost something important to the water, but this wasn't the only problem, as that was now guarded by some kind of shark. Heading down, I finally realised what the grabber meant when he said shark, but this wasn't any ordinary one that I'd become used to. This thing was huge, and it seemed completely indestructible to my arrows. Whilst using pillars for cover, I quickly discovered that this was how I would kill it. Having the shark charge into the pillar would damage it, which would then allow me to place an explosive barrel inside its structure. With its next charge, the beast would detonate the barrel and take tons of damage. After successfully detonating the first barrel, a hole opened in the ceiling. Up above, my biggest problem was keeping track of the shark whilst heading to the nearby air vents so I didn't drown, and on a number of occasions I was headbutted off my breathing point, risking death by suffocation. I was taking serious damage in this fight, and I was thankful that I brought armor, because I dreaded to think how much damage this guy would have done without it. I finally made it to the top floor, and after the shark headbutted the center pillar a number of times, I slipped in the explosive and he finally went down. After this, I'd be eating shark meat for weeks. I then discovered what the shark had been guarding, the key to activate the crane. On the way out, I got lost and ended up going back inside, but the funny thing was, somehow this shark was not only swimming inside the skyscraper, but on dry land and in midair. Clearly killing the rhino shark had given me special powers, so I used the opportunity to get even more meat. Not that I needed it. Climbing back up the crane, I released the mother load, sending rubble crashing through the floor of the opposing skyscraper. Descending into the wreckage, I found blueprints for advanced batteries and the coordinates for my next stop, Temperance. As I sailed to my next destination, I encountered something I'd never seen before. Ice. Lots and lots of ice. How on earth was I supposed to get to my next objective with all this in the way? And to boot, it felt like the engine was struggling. I don't know if the cold weather actually slowed me down, but it certainly felt like it. Without stopping to think about the consequences, I jumped off my raft and started trekking across the ice. This was maybe not the best idea, as I hadn't brought any food or water. As I walked, my mind began to wander. Could there be polar bears out here? Well, I didn't have to wait long to find out, as I promptly ran into one. A few arrows and one bear less later, I started pulling cables out of this radio antenna. Was this wise? I didn't know what these things were for, but hey, my cable now, I suppose. I continued to follow the antenna, pulling the cable out of each one as I went, until eventually I made my way to a set of igloos. These seemed to need the power cables I'd been plundering, but I didn't really have the time to sit around and figure out the puzzle right now. I also ventured down into some strange bunker which was radioactive, and made my way out of there right quick. I left the area on my new favourite toy, as this place was littered with snowmobiles. I used this to visit a few more antenna and then went home, deciding it was best not to push my luck and quit while I was ahead. The next morning, I decided to head out in the opposite direction. After travelling for some time, I stumbled across an observatory. As I approached, the curse of my incredibly heavy body struck once again, and I plummeted through the ice. Regaining my composure, I ran through the cavern and climbed the ladder leading into the observatory itself. Inside, I was greeted by a mysterious puzzle. The observatory showed me a map of the night sky and constellations, which seemed to match the notes I found inside the room. Counting the stars in each constellation gave the code to open this locker, which gave me the Selene key, a key for a location I'd heard about long ago at the radio tower. Leaving the observatory, I'd travelled sailed to the other side of the ice island back towards the igloos. No longer worrying about food, I figured out that each cable had to be connected to a nearby power box, opening each igloo as I went. These igloos were impressive inside. This one even had a gym. Finally making my way to the central dome, I found a blowtorch. What this was for, I wasn't quite sure, but I had a feeling I'd find out soon enough. The next day, I set out for the facility in the middle of the island that had been pouring light into the sky ever since I arrived. Walking up to the facility, I discovered this was the legendary Selene that I'd heard about all those days ago. After heating the door handle, I headed inside to discover a nuclear reactor. Inside, I found a note from Sparrow, one of the original trio at the radio tower, speaking of how he abandoned Owl and Cuckoo. The reactor was a prototype to power floating cities like Tangaroa, but someone working alongside the investors had infiltrated the group. If this bad actor learned about the secrets this place possessed, the people who caused the world to flood would monopolize this unlimited source of green energy. Sparrow abandoned Owl as they knew they were a traitor, but he wasn't sure about Cuckoo. He just couldn't take the risk of trusting them. The reactor here was only a prototype, but Sparrow was sure that a fully working model was possible and believed one had been created at Utopia, the ultimate haven for rafters in the endless ocean. But a message has arrived from Utopia that Olaf has arrived, and that can only mean trouble. Back in Selene, the reactor seems to be malfunctioning, and I need to find nuclear rods to stabilize the facility. Heading down into the laboratory, I found the place was flooded with radiation, but luckily radiation suits were close to hand, although they didn't last long. Anything that I did would have to be quick. I then discovered my first puzzle, requiring 3 terminals to be input with codes relating to the elements of the periodic table on the walls. After overcoming this puzzle, I was quickly greeted with another. Lasers? What is this? It seems I've entered a spy novel. Ow, they hurt too. Burning through the lock on the door, I entered the next area with a much more complicated puzzle. I had to align the lasers by bouncing them around the room to burn through the lock at the far side. All this, whilst also under time pressure, made this challenge quite tricky, although I did eventually overcome it and find the power rods for the reactor. Inserting the rods back in place, a malfunction stopped them from working correctly, so I had to head into the reactors very hard. Down in the center, I had to contend with these alien-looking bugs. I wasn't sure if these were a product of the radiation down below, or if they'd been brought here by something more sinister. Whilst fighting to turn the locks in the reactor's core, all my weapons broke. This was a disaster. I only had one more lock left to turn, but it looked like I'd need to head home to make more weapons. Swarmed by bugs, I retreated back the way I came, falling dangerously low on health. Thankfully, at the last minute, I noticed I had enough resources to make another spear, and whilst the bugs were stuck behind the door, I managed to clear a good chunk of them out. Heading back into the core, I finally turned the final lock, stabilizing the reactor. In a newly opened room, I found a man locked in cryosleep, although maybe I should have left him be, as he too seemed to be affected by the strange column of light disease. In this room, I discovered the location of my final destination, Utopia. On day 85, I ransacked what was left of the island for any supplies, visiting the now radiation-free bunkers and picking up everything that wasn't nailed down. I then tried to take my snowmobile with me, which actually worked, until I pulled up the anchor and watched all my hopes and dreams slide off the deck. Over the next few days, I undertook what I called Operation Beautify. Long past were the days of pure functionality. Now I wanted to make my raft look pretty. I tried various different designs, placing down fences to stop myself falling off the edge, making a bed, rearranging my storage so it wasn't such a mess, moving the steering wheel to somewhere that actually made sense, and I even gave the raft a lick of paint. I thought the checkerboard theme went quite well with what limited resources I had. I couldn't paint the whole thing, but hey, it was an improvement. On day 90, I was still painting my raft when the final objective came into view. Towering out of the water were the huge skyscrapers of Utopia. If this is how big they were now, these things must have been massive when they were built and the sea level was lower. For the rest of the day and throughout day 91, I prepared, crafting weapons and stocking up on food and water. I really did not want a repeat of the reactor scenario. I only came through that by sheer luck. Wilson, have you been shopping again? I told you we couldn't spare the trash cubes.
What do you mean? I've always looked like this.
Sure. Well, anyway, I suppose this is goodbye. I'm not sure I'm coming back this time.
When have we ever failed before? The end may be nigh, but that doesn't mean we're going to die.
Thanks, Wilson. I don't know how I would have lasted this long without you.
Yeah, you really wouldn't have. You'd have been at the bottom of the ocean weeks ago.
Great, thanks for that. And there was me thinking we were having a moment. On day 92, I took my first tentative steps into Utopia. Compared to some of the locations I'd seen on my journey, this place looked relatively intact, at least down here anyway. As I explored, I heard the muffled cries of the town's residents. Utopia had been hijacked by Olaf and his army of beasts, locking the town's residents away inside their homes. It wouldn't be long until I ran into Utopia's unique beast. The Haven's docks were now stalked by hyenas, and this was no laughing matter as they loved to drag me along the floor. Taking the high ground seemed to be the best strategy to deal with them and save my body from hundreds of splinters. On my first night in the town, I had to reconnect electrical cabling that snaked across the town's skies, as this would let me power a water generator to help me find where the final survivor had retreated to. As the sun rose, I moved on to the water pipe puzzle, and after directing the water, it gave me a carbon dioxide canister which I would need later on. Confused, I then spent most of the rest of the day wandering around trying to find a harpoon, which I needed to progress on. It then dawned on me that all the shovels lying around and digging spots in the area probably meant what I needed was underground, and set about digging. Eventually I unearthed 3 parts of a code which allowed me to open the survivor's house. Inside, I found the harpoon. Back on top of the house, I then used the harpoon and carbon dioxide canister to do some property damage, and then ziplined through the window. In here I found the second key I'd need to get through a locked door. After restocking on supplies, I headed inside and up the elevator, and was greeted with a jumping challenge. The hardest part of this entire puzzle was the very first part, as I just kept failing at the first jump. Once I'd got through this part, the rest of it was relatively straightforward. After grabbing the hammer at the end, I smashed the lock on a nearby gate, only to be greeted by the man himself. After an elevator puzzle, we get more dialogue. Olaf had taken this place to return it to its luxury look, rather than let it continue to be the scrapyard the rafters had turned it into, or at least that's his excuse. After one more elevator puzzle, the battle began. Standing atop his platform, Olaf began chucking Molotov cocktails down on my position. I rushed around the area looking for boxes that I could use to climb up to get to him. After successfully dodging his bombs, I finally stacked up enough crates to climb up and give him a piece of my mind, at which point he ran for it. Moving through to the next area, I noticed I was getting a little hungry, so I asked Olaf for a pause while I went and got a snack, and thankfully he was understanding. Dropping down into a room full of cages, I again had to climb up to Olaf's position. This time, however, he wasn't just throwing Molotovs, the room was also full of hyenas. To start with, I tried to kill as many as I could before I began stacking boxes, but I quickly learned that this was not a very effective strategy. The more I killed, the more simply entered the room, so I began ignoring them and ran to stack the boxes up high. Finally, having climbed up to Olaf's position, the coward fled once again. Entering a large arena, Olaf was joined by a giant hyena, the Alpha. This beast moved incredibly quickly and spewed acid all around. I strafed backwards, filling the beast with arrows, but it just kept coming. Olaf continued to feed the beast throughout the fight, causing the Alpha to power up. It had charge moves, jumping moves, and even ranged attacks, but the most lethal thing of all was the acid it left on the ground. So much of the floor was full of acid, it was hard to dodge whilst not taking damage, but eventually a fateful arrow struck true, and the beast finally fell. Olaf was now cornered, and as he backed away, he had an unfortunate accident, but luckily for him, lights broke his fall. Taking his key and leaving him hanging, I ventured down below and freed the residents of Utopia. My mission was now complete. For my last few days, I wandered around the town, meeting the townsfolk whose notes we were reading along the way. It was nice to put faces to the names. I enjoyed exploring the town I'd saved, and I even found Olaf locked up in his cage. And as the sun rose for day 101, Wilson and I set off together to discover what else might be out there in this flooded world. And special thanks to my patrons, Matthias, Baron Windy, Immortal and Cubmix for making this video possible.